Chapter 663. However, speaking of which, this was very strange. In the past, only rich young masters were sent here to be beaten up. Why was a young lady sent here this time? Were people from wealthy families advocating equality between men and women now? They wouldn't even let a little girl off. Perhaps it was because Bai Yunj was too quiet that the young man in camouflage couldn't help but nag. Joie suddenly asked, "How many days do you want to stay here?" Bai Yunj laughed and fiddled with her camera lazily. "Let's leave as soon as possible." In her previous life, she was tired of staying. Although in her previous life, she liked to stay in the war zone. This was probably the first time Joie had met such a clear-headed rich man. "Don't you want to experience it? You're too clear-headed." The person who was sent here this year was really different from the people who were sent here in the past. Bai Yunj looked at him again and said leisurely, "Do I look like someone who's willing to suffer?" Joie was speechless. He couldn't see any major flaws in Bai Yunj's personality, although she was a little too rational. In the past, the young masters who were sent here all looked down their noses, thinking that they were some big shot. However, the person who came today was a little unpredictable. Sweat flowed down from the texture of his muscles. Bai Yunj glanced at him and looked away. Until they entered the training ground. From afar, Bai Yunj saw a group of real warriors. They were shirtless, revealing their firm chests. Weren't they too good-looking? Soon. However, when they saw Joie with a fair and pretty girl who looked like a fairy, their legs almost turned to jelly. Where did this little fairy come from? Captain Gao nodded and glanced at Bai Yunj indifferently. He didn't know Bai Yunj's identity. He only knew that old Master Lang had sent her here. Bai Yunj was sent to Captain Gao. At this moment, Captain Gao was training with more than 20 team members. "Miss Pei." Captain Gao glanced at Bai Yunj and saw that the girl was wearing a sparkling golden skirt and a loose black suit. Only the cuffs were embroidered with exquisite golden patterns. She was also wearing a pair of leather black high heels. He said that although the young lady was here for training, she must not be allowed to encounter any physical threats. It was obvious that old Master Lang was very nervous about this delicate young lady. "Captain Gao, I'm sorry. I don't understand." Bai Yunj, she didn't feel any psychological pressure at all. The girl's black hair was loose and curly, draping over her shoulders. Her eyes were bright and languid, too exquisite and beautiful. "Do you know that you came to the war zone today?" Captain Gao took a deep breath. "Bai Yunj? Who would have thought?" Suddenly, someone pointed at her and said in disbelief, trembling. Hui also looked at her warily. "What are you doing here?" Soon, Bai Yunj turned around and saw Hui. "Miss Pei, is this your first time in the war zone?" Sergeant Gao asked. Just now, this young lady had said with an innocent face that she didn't know much about this. Wasn't this Miss Pei too vengeful? Could it be that she knew that he had been demoted here, so she came here specially? In the end, this newcomer, Hui, actually recognized Bai Yunj at a glance. Bai Yunj's eyebrows twitched, and she glanced at Hui beside her. Chapter 664. "Tell me, how did you get to know her?" Captain Gao asked Hui. Hui was about to blurt it out, but he was afraid of offending Bai Yunj. After all, after seeing Bai Yunj play with guns last time, he was already traumatized by this missy. "I met her when I was accompanying Captain Ji on a mission." Hui felt a little guilty. The Ji family seems to have a good relationship with Miss Pei's family. Hearing this, Sergeant Gao also took a look and roughly understood what was going on. Ji Yiqing was also a famous big shot in the district. Everyone knew that Ji Yiqing's Ji family referred to the Ji family, which had been a family of generals for generations. The Ji family was also a prestigious family in the upper-class society. It was normal for them to know some missy from a wealthy family. Captain Gao glanced at Bai Yunj and said indifferently, "I'll get someone to prepare clothes for you tomorrow. From tomorrow onwards, you have to follow the rules." Bai Yunj was speechless. At this moment, Bei Yunj felt more and more that Si Qingyan and Elder Zhong were tricking her. She had failed the psychological evaluation and they had brought her to this godforsaken place. At this thought, Bei Yunj scanned the other places impatiently. However, the next moment, she saw the surveillance camera from the corner of her eye. After a while, Bei Yunj licked her red lips as her pretty eyes narrowed slightly. Then, she laughed lazily and glanced at the camera carelessly. Soon, she turned her head. At this moment, everyone in the control room almost had their hearts jump out of their throats. Isn't this girl too smart? That look just now scared me to death. Meishu Bar Old Master Lang touched his heart. The handsome doctor in a white coat beside him curled his lips as interest flashed across his eyes. She's my patient? At first, Cui Hengchuan saw that this girl was obviously not smart to come to the war zone dressed like this. But now, it seemed that no one was better at hiding themselves than this person. No wonder his junior brother said that he could not do anything to Bei Yunj when he went to treat her. A patient who was unwilling to cooperate with the doctor was indeed very troublesome. Especially a smart patient. Yes, Dr. Cui, I'll leave to you during this time. Zhong Xinglin, who was next to him, was the most nervous. Since he knew that Bei Yunj had bipolar I, he could hardly relax. How could he have such a psychological problem at his age? Cui Hengchuan observed Bei Yunj's behavior while making notes. He curled his lips and teased, all these years, old Master Lang has never lent me out. It seems like this girl has a big start. Hengchuan, nothing must happen to this child. Then, Cui Hengchuan heard him pause for a moment. This is not just my idea. It's also the higher-up's idea. Hearing this, Cui Hengchuan's eyes flashed with surprise. He did not expect that the person leading this matter was not old Master Lang, but the higher-ups. I know, but I can only do my best. Mental illnesses are difficult to control, let alone treat. Cui Hengchuan looked at the girl in the video for a while and couldn't help but mutter to himself, a girl like this shouldn't suffer like this. Dr. Cui, what are you talking about? Zhong Xinglin asked. Cui Hengchuan came back to his senses and smiled. Nothing. What we need to do now is to find the cause of Miss Pei's illness. At the training ground. Chapter 665. Bei Yunj hesitated for a moment and prepared to turn around and leave. Seeing this scene, Captain Gao was confused. Miss Pei, where are you going? Captain Gao's eyelids twitched. I'm going to watch you train from the side. Bei Yunj's tone was gentle. She really sounded like a young lady who did not know anything, but her beautiful eyes were lazy and clear. No one could understand the emotions in her eyes. Miss Pei, do you think you're here for a vacation? Captain Gao was silent for a moment before he looked at her with a fake smile. At this moment, the team members who were preparing to train felt an unusual sense of danger and coldness in Captain Gao's tone. Captain Gao hated those young ladies and young masters who did not know anything the most. Who was it that sent such a good-looking young miss with no redeeming qualities to him? Bei Yunj's emotions were incomprehensible as she glanced at Captain Gao. And this scene was captured by the monitor. Zhong Xinglin was extremely nervous. He patted old Master Lang's back hard and shouted protectively, what kind of subordinate is this? Look at my Gu-er. Is she here to suffer? My Gu-er's hands are much more useful than these uncouth people. Old Master Lang was almost out of breath from the pat. He pushed Zhong Xinglin away. Gao Yang's temper is like this. Now that we're in this district, I'm relieved to hand her over to him. Also, don't make a distinction between us. What do you mean by us uncouth people? Zhong Xinglin was not in the mood to argue with him. He stared at Bei Yunj nervously and suddenly thought of Bei Yunj's temper. His heart skipped a beat. I almost forgot. Gu-er's temper doesn't seem to be very good. She can't possibly fight with someone, right? Old Master Lang glanced at Zhong Xinglin in confusion and smiled nonchalantly. Who knew? Zhong Xinglin was silent and just looked at him silently. Book 8. Old Master Lang? Then, Just as Old Master Lang and the others turned to look at the screen, they saw Bai Yunj walking towards Captain Gao. However, he had no intention of causing trouble. Old Master Lang and Zhong Xinglin heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, at least they didn't cause a ruckus. Old Master Lang could not help but say, "Gu shouldn't be that scary when she's angry, right? Do you know why Ji Yiqing's last mission was suddenly resolved?" Zhong Xinglin glanced at him meaningfully. Last mission? Isn't that a high-tech terrorist? Old Master Lang asked subconsciously. Those people sent Gu, or a pair of bloody eyeballs, threatening Gu, or with death. After Zhong Xinglin finished speaking, Old Master Lang gasped. This group of people was really lawless. How was it resolved later? Zhong Xinglin said calmly, Gu, found our nation's technology group, as well as our nation's international police and Marcus. She locked onto the gang's headquarters and wiped them out in one go. It was said that because that group of people had set up their headquarters in the no man's land, it was directly bombed to the point where only broken walls and ruins were left. If he were to handle this matter, he might not be able to deal with it. After all, he was from country A. However, at that time, Bai Yunj was a member of our nation's Institute of Computational Technology. The higher-ups of our nation were also very concerned about Bai Yunj's personal safety and future nationality choice. Therefore, after being instigated by Marcus, the higher-ups directly dealt with that group of people. How could a scientific research genius who was valued by the country be allowed to be in danger? Chapter 666. He had heard about this occasionally, but he did not know that it had something to do with Bai Yunj. Isn't this girl's vengeful heart a little too strong? Zhong Xinglin had always been protective. He retorted, which young lady can accept being given eyeballs? But no little girl would destroy their gang headquarters just because a pair of eyeballs had been given to her by a terrorist. Thinking of this, Old Master Lang felt his scalp go numb. However, speaking of which, with Bai Yunj's personality, she was really suitable to be his successor. Just as Old Master Lang was deep in thought, a call suddenly came in. What happened? Old Master Lang asked. The spy we caught last time escaped. There are foreign criminals involved, and the car escorting the spy suffered heavy casualties. Old Master Lang, what should we do? When Old Master Lang heard this, his expression changed. What do you mean, what should we do? Hurry up and seal the country's borders. Don't let any of them escape. If that spy returned, it would have a huge impact on country A. They must not let him leave. Yes, I'll arrange for someone to chase after him now. At the same time. At the training ground. Even number 1 column, odd number 1 column. I want you to split into 2 teams and fight in the area. With that, Captain Gao distributed the red and blue team badges. Reporting. Team Red is still short of 1 person. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone realized that Captain Gao had a red team badge in his hand. Captain Gao said slowly, "Who said that?" As soon as he finished speaking, everyone saw Captain Gao turn his head and look at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj, who was taking photos everywhere, happened to meet Captain Gao's eyes. The members of Team Red were speechless. They suddenly had a bad feeling. Bai Yunj, you're a member of Team Red now. Captain Gao said calmly. Reporting, Captain Gao. But in the past, no outsider has ever trained with us in actual combat. Someone from Team Red immediately protested. In the past, even if someone came, they would only practice shooting with them and carry out daily training. Now, there was a woman who looked like she could be blown away. What was going on with actual combat training with them? This is an order. I will give you 2 flags. Protecting the flags is your mission. Whoever can protect their flag until the end will win this exercise. After that, everyone saw Sergeant Gao carry 2 bags and pass them to their captain. Then, Sergeant Gao glanced at Bai Yunj and asked, "Are you ready?" "When you're ready, you can leave." A few minutes later, Ajua hurried over and asked curiously, "Where's Miss Pei?" "Training." Captain Gao was unmoved. Zhua suddenly panicked and immediately said, Captain Gao, this is not old Master Leng's man. Don't be too strict. Those who come to the war zone, regardless of whether they are sent here, are all the same. Sergeant Gao's tone was cold. Where is she now? Great Eagle Forest. As soon as Captain Gao finished speaking, Zhua almost had a heart attack. This was their field training ground. How could they let someone without any fighting ability go to the Great Eagle Forest? Captain Gao, if anything happens to her, how are you going to explain it to old Master Leng? I will take full responsibility. Sergeant Gao frowned. In the monitoring room, Zhong Xinglin frowned. What's going on? Where are you sending Gu? Old Master Leng, who had just finished the call and knew where Bei Yunj had been arranged to go, had an ugly expression on his face. This Gao Yang is really a bastard. What's going on? Zhong Xinglin could not help but ask. Chapter 667. That bastard, he sent her to the Great Eagle Forest. Cui Hengchuan's eyes flashed and his knuckles moved. Great Eagle Forest? This was the place where the team members trained. What Great Eagle Forest? Old Leng, speak clearly. Zhong Xinglin suddenly had a bad feeling. Indeed. The next moment, old Master Leng pursed his lips. It's the place where the people in our district train. Combat training? Are you King kidding me? Zhong Xinglin slammed the table and stood up with an ugly expression. No. Get her back now. She's already gone. It's impossible for her to come back. Old Master Leng took a deep breath. I don't care. If anything happens to her, do you think it's King joke? Zhong Xinglin was instantly enraged. He sent Bei Yunj here because it was convenient for Cui Hengchuan to observe Bei Yunj and treat Bei Yunj's psychological illness as soon as possible. He did not send Bei Yunj here to risk her life. If not for Cui Hengchuan's special identity, would he have sent his heir to this godforsaken place? Elder Zhong, calm down first. Actually, I don't know what will happen. Cui Hengchuan was the first to react and said, Old Master Leng, why don't you get Captain Gao to give the order for the team members to protect Miss Pei's safety? Sure. After Old Master Leng finished speaking, he patted Zhong Xinglin's shoulder. It'll be fine. Trust me. Although the Great Eagle Forest is dangerous, the others will definitely be able to protect Gu. Let me tell you, if my Gu loses a drop of blood and a little skin, that guy with the surname Gao must be punished. Zhong Xinglin said expressionlessly. This, Old Master Leng hesitated. Zhong Xinglin sneered. Old Master Leng, that's not just anyone. Do you know what kind of conditions Country R has offered to poach her? As soon as he finished speaking, Old Master Leng remained silent. Cui Hengchuan's eyes flashed. ? That girl was. He had always thought that he was at least 30 or 40 years old. Zhong Xinglin finally realized that he had exposed Bei Yunj's true identity. He pursed his lips and didn't say anything. The next moment, Old Master Leng said helplessly, Got it. I'll make the arrangements. If anything happens to Gu, I'll make sure Gao Yang receives the appropriate punishment. After saying that, Old Master Leng looked at Cui Hengchuan beside him. Dr. Cui, I hope you can keep this matter a secret. After all, Gu's information is not allowed to be made public. I understand. Hearing Old Master Leng's words, Cui Hengchuan was finally sure that this girl was really, he's actually so young. Cui Hengchuan glanced at Bei Yunj's personal information. He was not even 20 years old. He actually had such an achievement. No wonder Zhong Xinglin and Old Master Leng were so nervous about Bei Yunj. Researchers like her were indeed important targets of protection. Not long after, Captain Gao received a call from Old Master Leng and was even scolded to his face. In the end, he was given a mission that he had to carry out. Protect Bei Yunj. This made Captain Gao unhappy, but he had no choice but to give this order to the two teams. In the helicopter, When the members of Team Blue heard the voice from the walkie-talkie, they could not help but look at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj changed her clothes before boarding the helicopter. She had just sat down and set up the communication device when she saw everyone looking at her with a complicated gaze. What's the matter? Bai Yunj glanced at them indifferently. What's your name? Captain Chen Hu asked. Chapter 668. This was the first time he had heard Captain Gao give such an order. Captain Gao did not sound like he was in a good mood. Bai Yunj. What does your family do? Chen Hu liked this little sister. If his sister grew up to be as good-looking as Bai Yunj, how great would that be? She runs a company. Bai Yunj thought for a while. Hearing that, the others looked at Bai Yunj with a, as expected, look in their eyes. She was really a rich girl. Do you have an older brother? Chen Hu rubbed the back of his head and gave a simple and honest smile. All right, brother who is talking about his sister again, the team member next to him teased. Yes. Bai Yunj said lightly. How is your relationship with them? Chen Hu's eyes lit up. Very bad. Chen Hu, very good, end of topic. What's going on? Our red team has one less person than the blue team, and we still have to protect a burden. One of the young troublemakers said impatiently. He did not care about Bai Yunj at all. Bai Yunj glanced at the young boy carelessly. She knew in her heart that that burden was referring to her. Aya, what's wrong? You're not willing to protect the little fairy. A frail-looking boy wearing glasses next to him laughed. Protect my ass. Who the hell wants to be accompanied by a woman on a mission? That person roared angrily. Hearing that, Chen Hu frowned. What do you mean by following a woman? Do you think you can inherit the throne with just a woman? Watch your mouth. Don't the blue team have a female comrade too? The troublemaker's face turned green. Then, he glanced at Bai Yunj and sneered. Dai Dan next door is not bad, but what about this one? Xiang Hongtao, you, all right. Shut up. Chen Hu scolded and glanced at Xiang Hongtao. Will you be unwilling to protect the hostages when you're on a mission in the future? Xiang Hongtao saw that the people around him did not say anything to help him and sneered. After glancing at Bai Yunj, he nodded. All right, then let's just say we're protecting the hostages. I hope this spoiled hostage can give me less trouble. Bai Yunj glanced at him and sneered. What are you laughing at? Xiang Hongtao was immediately enraged. I'm fine. Bai Yunj said slowly, it's just that I thought that only animals can't control their mouths. What did you say? Xiang Hongtao was furious. He gritted his teeth and stared at Bai Yunj. His eyes were almost spitting fire, and his knuckles were cracking. The others also unconsciously fell silent. This young miss was too bold with her words. You don't understand? Bai Yunj raised his eyebrows. There was a faint smile in his eyes. He said playfully, watch your mouth. Don't bark like an animal. Understood? Xiang Hongtao's face darkened. He suddenly stood up and wanted to walk towards Bai Yunj. How dare you say that, Xiang Hongtao? Chen Hu interrupted his thoughts. Get lost if you don't want to train. Instantly. Xiang Hongtao pursed his lips and suppressed the anger in his heart. A few minutes later, he sat back down. Chen Hu also had a headache over Xiang Hongtao. Xiang Hongtao was clearly the most outstanding person in this group, but he was also the most troublesome. With this personality, he would suffer in the future sooner or later. This girl's words are really vicious. Old Master Lang sucked in a breath of cold air. Chapter 669. Due to the sudden kidnapping of the spy, Old Master Lang left the surveillance room first and contacted the higher-ups. Only Zhong Xinglin and Cui Hengchuan were there. Zhong Xinglin saw that Cui Hengchuan did not take notes and could not help but ask, will there really be any results from observing like this? No matter how strong a warrior's psychological defense is, there will be flaws in their expressions when they face an unknown territory. Cui Hengchuan raised his eyebrows. His eyes were as dark as ink, and his tone was gentle and calm. But if Miss Pei also knows psychology, then this will be troublesome. He had seen all kinds of patients, and there were also those who hid their illnesses for fear of treatment. However, these people could not be figured out. He could control their psychology very well. But Bei Yunj, he was not sure. At least until now, he had not observed any useful information. I'm not sure either. Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. Who knew what Bei Yunj knew? Physics, mathematics, medicine. He did not know how Bei Yunj's brain worked. She knew more or less all of them. How could an ordinary person have the energy to learn so many fields? Continue observing. There might be a breakthrough. While they were chatting, the two teams had already negotiated a few times in the Great Eagle Forest. Team Red was in a sorry state. F***CK, is Team Blue shameless? They like to ambush so much. Team Red could not help but curse. Chen Hu wiped his sweat and chuckled. You can't blame them. Black and white cats. A good cat that catches mice is a good cat. I think it's mainly because we don't have enough manpower. Behind Chen Hu, someone complained, not only do we have one less person than Team Blue, but we also have to spare energy to protect people. Chen Hu glanced at him. Miss Pei performed well. At least she didn't cause us any trouble. Team Blue didn't attack Miss Pei either, so don't blame others for the failure. Hearing this, that person wanted to say something but hesitated. He could only lower his head angrily, feeling indignant. If they lost again in this combat exercise, not to mention punishment, he and his brothers would be mocked again. Team Red had lost 3 times in a row and could not raise their heads in the district. At this moment, Chen Hu added, however, the female comrade of Team Blue is indeed powerful. They had almost been completely wiped out because Dai Dan had locked onto their approximate location based on the terrain. Hearing this, the team member who was beside Pei Yunj and protecting her nodded and said enviously, of course. Dai Dan graduated from the computing department of Yun University. With that, the team member protecting Pei Yunj could not help but look at Pei Yunj and ask curiously, Sister, what did you learn? Which university? Pei Yunj said lazily, I haven't gone to university yet. I repeated a year and am in my 2nd year of high school now. To her. Beside her, Xiang Hongtao laughed coldly and said to the team member protecting Pei Yunj with a mocking tone, Do you think you can be like Dai Dan just because you're a woman? Xiang Hongtao. The team member protecting Pei Yunj did not have the intention to do so either. Hearing Xiang Hongtao's words, he immediately shouted a warning at him. This scene was recorded on the monitor. Captain Gao, who came to look for Old Master Leng, happened to see this scene. He hid the mockery in his eyes. Why are Dr. Cui and Elder Zhong here? To observe the patient. Cui Hengchuan's tone was gentle. He was wearing a white coat and was a little out of place with the surrounding environment. Then, Sergeant Gao also felt that the way Zhong Xinglin looked at him was a little hostile and cold. Chapter 670. I have to keep an eye on our treasure in case something happens to it in your district. His tone was clearly filled with mockery. Captain Gao didn't quite understand why Zhong Xinglin was suddenly so hostile towards him. However, with Zhong Xinglin's status and reputation, he couldn't afford to offend him. Hence, Captain Gao also sat at the side and quietly watched the situation on the screen. On the monitor, Team Red had been suppressed by Team Blue the entire time. If this went on, Team Red would probably lose in less than 2 days. At this moment, Bei Yunj kicked the gravel under her feet and glanced around. After a moment of silence, she said to the team member who had been protecting her, White Bear, can you lend me your computer? White Bear seemed to be the team member's code name. Bei Yunj didn't ask much and didn't care about this name. Hearing this, White Bear thought that Bei Yunj wanted to play games. He hesitated for a moment. Girl, I don't have time to play games for you now. Why don't I let you play during the night break? Bei Yunj was speechless. At this moment, in the monitoring room, Cui Hengchuan's eyes lit up when he saw this scene. His slender and good-looking hands immediately took notes. Even Zhong Xinglin couldn't help but smile when he saw Bei Yunj being despised. Captain Gao was the only one who frowned. Did Bei Yunj understand the rules? She still wanted to play games at this time? Captain Gao looked listless and then turned to look at Team Blue. He suddenly lost interest in Team Red. In the team, there were also people who had the same thoughts as Captain Gao. White Bear, you want to let Miss Pei play games on a high-end computer? Xiang Hongtao couldn't help but sneer. There should be a lot of private files on your computer, right? Aren't you afraid that they will leak? Miss Pei definitely won't. Besides, private files are all locked. Bei Yunj looked up at White Bear, who was more than 1.9 meters tall. Before she could think of what to say, she suddenly heard the alarm in front. Everyone, be careful of the nearby minefields. After saying this, before Bei Yunj could react, she heard White Bear say, "Sorry for offending Miss Pei." Bei Yunj had just turned her head when someone suddenly hugged her leg and lifted her up gently. The next moment, she sat on the White Bear's strong arm. "Miss Pei, it'll be very uncomfortable if your shoes get wet." A serious look appeared on White Bear's honest face. He held Bei Yunj's calf with one hand and didn't have any intention of overstepping his boundaries. Bei Yunj looked at the small river that they had to cross. "Thank you." Why did she suddenly feel so weak? "Let me get you a computer." Bei Yunj did not give up and added, "I'll hold it. It won't get wet." White Bear didn't think much of it. He handed the laptop that he was holding to Bei Yunj. In the forest, Bei Yunj sat on White Bear's arm and slowly turned on the computer. Everyone turned their heads and saw this scene. When they had first been given the task of protecting Bei Yunj, only White Bear had a good temper and was willing to carry a burden. Looking at the others, who would be willing to accept this task? Bei Yunj, don't go overboard. What right do you have to sit on White Bear's arm? Xiang Hongtao was furious. He saw that Bei Yunj didn't even need to walk. She was really sitting on White Bear and playing on the computer. Huh. I was the one who brought Miss Pei up. Miss Pei won't feel good if her shoes get wet. White Bear said honestly. Chapter 671. Bei Yunj said lazily, "Thank you, Brother Bear." Seeing this scene, Xiang Hongtao's entire face darkened. He couldn't help but glance at White Bear and scold, "No wonder everyone says you're trash." After that, Xiang Hongtao walked up angrily. Bei Yunj lowered his head. Seeing that White Bear didn't seem to care, he asked, "Brother Bear, aren't you angry?" "I'll be angry." White Bear nodded. Bei Yunj, this temper was indeed too good. Bei Yunj glanced at him and didn't say anything else. Instead, he casually entered White Bear's computer system and added an anti-decryption to White Bear's confidential documents. With White Bear's personality, it was really easy for him to be cheated of confidential documents. At that time, not to mention whether he could stay in the war zone, he might even be held accountable. After a while, White Bear caught up with the team members in front. Chen Hu glanced at Bei Yunj, who was sitting on White Bear's arm, and his eyelids twitched. But he didn't say anything. He coughed softly. "All right, there's a minefield next to us. Everyone, pay attention to the southwest. Be careful of an ambush. If we get ambushed again this time, we'll really be wiped out. Do you hear me?" "Yes," everyone said in unison. But suddenly, a clear voice sounded. "What's the rate of hidden lightning in the minefield?" Everyone was stunned. Only White Bear reacted and said, "The south of the minefield is a new one. Almost everyone knows the location of the hidden lightning. The rate of hidden lightning is less than 45%. The back of the minefield is an old one that hasn't been dug out. The rate is more than 75%. It's very difficult to cross the minefield safely." After saying that, Shen Hu's eyes lit up and he immediately reacted. Team Red, listen to my command. Everyone, pay attention to the south of the minefield. Get ready to move forward. As soon as he finished speaking. Except for White Bear, who hid behind a tree with Bei Yunj, everyone was ready to cross the minefield. They didn't have time to think about why Bei Yunj's reaction was faster than their captain's. Miss Pei is not simple. This was Cui Hengchuan's first comment on Bei Yunj. Especially in the monitor just now, he had seen Bei Yunj's computer screen analyzing the terrain of the Great Eagle Forest. Sergeant Gao, who had just turned his head, did not notice this scene. He only thought that Bei Yunj was a blind cat that hit a dead mouse. She actually guessed correctly. Team Blue was indeed guarding the south of the minefield. Meanwhile, the blue team member lying in ambush in the southwest direction passed a message to the captain. No one from the red team approached. This puzzled the blue team. The leader of the blue team frowned. How is that possible? How could they not be there? Dai Dan looked at the terrain of the Great Eagle Forest and thought for a while before coming to a realization. Captain. The red team is coming our way. What? Everyone in the blue team was shocked. They didn't expect Team Red to suddenly discover their ambush. Everyone, listen to my orders. Do not act rashly. Prepare for battle. The leader of the blue team quickly calmed down and a dark light flashed across his eyes. They still have to protect the hostages. Since the lamb has barged in, brothers, prepare to end the drill today. Yes. The blue team held their breaths and waited for Team Red to arrive. Meanwhile, Team Red, who had changed their direction in the forest, was still moving forward. Wait a minute, there's a low-lying area after going around the south. Which one of you can go around it? Bei Yunj looked at the terrain on the screen and asked unhurriedly. There was a hint of laziness in her eyes. Everyone? How did she know? Chapter 672. Soon. White Bear asked the questions that everyone wanted to ask. How did you know, Miss Pei? Bei Yunj lowered her head and glanced at him. Then, she said calmly, I saw the plants growing over there and analyzed them. At this moment. In the surveillance room, Zhong Xinglin and the others, who were looking at Bei Yunj's computer screen, were speechless. Captain Gao was stunned for a long time before he came back to his senses and asked, how did she get our terrain? She's cheating. This terrain map could not be used by the members of the actual combat practice. No one gave it to her. Zhong Xinglin rolled his eyes. Then Captain Gao was about to say something when Old Master Leng's voice sounded from behind. Where did get the internal map? The few people in the room were almost shocked by Old Master Leng. When did this person come in? Zhong Xinglin rolled his eyes. How would I know if you're asking me? She probably hacked into your system. Only Zhong Xinglin could say this so casually so early in the morning. The two people in the war zone were a little silent. You're in the F*King war zone, hacking the war zone system. She even knows this? Old Master Leng's eyelids twitched. Didn't they say that she was a scientific researcher? That's right. Our even made the headlines before. Zhong Xinglin smiled lovingly and proudly. Old Master Leng was speechless. That was why he had always hated high-tech criminals. She was too F*King arrogant. Who exactly is she? Captain Gao looked at this scene and finally realized that something was wrong. Old Master Leng patted his shoulder. It's not convenient to tell you at this time. But if anything happens to her, Gao Yang, you might really be held accountable. Hearing this. Worryless. Gao Yang suddenly had a bad premonition. Zhong Xinglin suddenly remembered something and glanced at Old Master Leng. Why did you come back? It's nothing. I just heard that the spy over there escaped. It happened to be in our area, so I got someone to chase after him. Old Master Leng shrugged. Zhong Xinglin, don't tell me it could be the Great Eagle Forest. Old Master Lang, who had just relaxed, suddenly became nervous. He could not help but curse in his heart. He had really forgotten about this. What if they happened to run into the red team, and in the Great Eagle Forest? Just as everyone was about to listen to Bai Yunj, Xiang Hongtao suddenly interrupted. Don't believe her. Xiang Hongtao glanced coldly at Bai Yunj and sneered. How many plants can a high school student recognize? What if she's mistaken? Won't we lose again this time? After that, Xiang Hongtao raised his chin. Let's go straight in. While the blue team isn't paying attention, we'll annihilate them in one fell swoop. Idiot. Bai Yunj sneered. What did you say? Xiang Hongtao's anger flared up. Who do you think you are? What right does a pampered young lady have to talk about me like that? The low bushes in the southwest area are less than 5 minutes away from the minefield. From the time we walked here, the blue team could have calculated our location. 3 minutes ago, the blue team members in the southwest area might have already provided information to the blue team members near the minefield. Bai Yunj said indifferently, or perhaps Comrade has the courage to sacrifice herself and go scout the way alone? As soon as she finished speaking. Chapter 673. Just now, they were still doubting the authenticity of Bai Yunj's words. Now, they almost completely believed Bai Yunj. Miss Pei, you, Chen, who hesitated for a second. The next moment, he was interrupted by Xiang Hongtao. Captain, are you really going to believe a high school student? As soon as he finished speaking. Before Chen who could think, the sound of a wooden gun suddenly came from not far away. This caused everyone to be stunned. White Bear carefully protected Bai Yunj as he moved his tall body to the side of the tree. Captain, this sound doesn't sound like the gun we used for practice. Bai Yunj was silent for a moment. It's a real gun. Hearing that, the others immediately woke up. They didn't have time to think about how Bai Yunj could tell. What's going on? Are they playing with a real wooden gun next door? Do they have a grudge against our team? Someone asked in a curious manner. After that, Chen, who was the first to react. His expression was solemn. Be careful. They might not be from Team Blue. This scene. It was also recorded on camera. Old Master Lang, who was in front of the camera, stood up abruptly. His heart was already tense. Could it really be such a coincidence? Lang, quickly find someone to save her. Gu is still there. If anything happens to her, how am I supposed to live? Zhong Xinglin was agitated and furious. At this moment, Captain Gao almost thought that Zhong Xinglin was Bai Yunj's biological grandfather. Captain Gao asked subconsciously, Elder Zhong, is that your biological granddaughter? I'm your head. That's F** King. Do you know? Zhong Xinglin was about to suffocate. Butler. He brought her to the district for the sake of Bai Yunj's physical and mental health. He felt that it was safer here. But in the end, they met armed men. When Captain Gao heard this, he felt that this name was a little familiar. A few seconds later, Captain Gao suddenly woke up. How is this possible? How could it be a little girl who wasn't even 20 years old? Brother Zhong, don't get too worked up. I'll mobilize all my men right now. Don't get too worked up. Old Master Lang also felt guilty. Zhong Xinglin's men got into trouble in his territory. It was the safest place in Country A. At this time, seeing how excited Zhong Xinglin and Old Master Lang were, Captain Gao's expression changed. No wonder Zhong Xinglin and Old Master Lang were nervous about this girl all the way. He had originally thought that she was some rich young lady of a noble family. But unexpectedly, it turned out to be, if something were to happen, it would be hard for him to absolve himself of the blame. Sergeant Gao's expression changed, and he immediately issued an order into his earpiece. Attention, Team Blue and Team Red. The drill was interrupted. You must use all means to protect Miss Pei. Only then did Sergeant Gao panic. He didn't know what Zhong Xinglin was thinking. Why did he send a weak and gentle scientific researcher to the district? If anything happened to those hands, it would be a loss to the country. At this moment, Old Master Lang was also very busy. He was on the phone. Do you not understand human language? We need more manpower here. Now, immediately. Mobilize the Falcon team and the Wolf team. Order. At this critical moment, you're telling me that you need an order from the higher-ups? When Old Master Lang heard this, his expression almost cracked. Old Master Zhong pushed him away. Let me say it. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhong Xinglin held the phone and quickly said, I'm Zhong Xinglin from the Computing Institute. Special circumstances. Chapter 674. You're in the district too. After the other party recovered from his shock, he reacted. Wait, the emergency is, Zhong Xinglin could not stand the other party's nagging. Go and contact the captains of Team Falcon and Team Wolf. Tell them about the emergency at the Computing Institute. They'll understand. With that said, Zhong Xinglin hung up the phone. Old Master Lang asked in confusion, you know the captains of Team Falcon and Team Wolf? Yes, before the Computing Institute, they were the ones who took turns to protect Gu. Zhong Xinglin did not know much about the captains in the district. However, when Old Master Lang heard this, his eyelids twitched. He could not even borrow the people from these two teams. He did not expect the higher-ups to be so generous. Such an outstanding team was used to protect Bai Yunj in turn. They were really willing to spend money. However, it was true that there had been foreign personnel who had deliberately harmed well-known researchers. And a scientific research genius like Bai Yunj should indeed put in effort to ensure her safety. At the same time, when Team Blue and Team Red suddenly received this order, they could not help but be puzzled. What was the identity of this excessively beautiful little girl? At this moment, Bai Yunj also felt the gazes of the people around her. Don't worry, I will take good care of Miss Pei. Bai Xiong's words made Sergeant Gao's eyes brim with tears of joy. Whether he could keep his job depended on White Bear. Fortunately, there was White Bear. Otherwise, if it were anyone else, who would be so stubborn and serious? Bai Yunj subconsciously curled her lips and said lazily, Thank you, Brother Bear. Hee hee. White Bear lowered his head in embarrassment and said, Miss Pei, if you're thirsty, I'll get you some water. What's wrong with you? You're still willing to mess around with a rich young lady when you're fighting at the front line? Xiang Hongtao said irritably. In the surveillance room. Pythagorean bookstore Zhong Xinglin smiled and turned to ask Captain Gao, Captain Gao, is this troublemaker's attitude very familiar? Captain Gao was speechless. No one was more protective and vengeful than Elder Zhong. Captain Gao was a little embarrassed, especially since he had been trying to figure out Bai Yunj just now. He said helplessly, I'm sorry, Elder Zhong. I'll wait for Miss Pei to come out and apologize personally. Now, I hope more than anyone that Miss Pei can come back safely. That was this year's nominees for the Fari Something and Bu Something Something Awards. He was worthy of being called the #1 dark horse in the scientific research field. Zhong Xinglin was still unhappy. Who told Captain Gao to send his Gu to Great Eagle Forest? At this moment, just as Team Red was about to look for Team Blue, they suddenly saw the figure of a woman. It was Dai Dan. However, he seemed to be in a sorry state. Something happened over there. Someone from another country has broken into our training ground. 1 dead and 1 injured. Dai Dan didn't look too good. She glanced at Bai Yunj and didn't say anything. Her martial prowess was nothing compared to the others. Hence, the leader of the blue team told her to seek help from the red team. At the critical moment, the opponent was also a teammate. I understand. Where's Fatty? Chen, who was talking about the leader of the blue team. I'm not sure yet. When I came, they were suppressed and couldn't leave. Dai Dan was anxious. Brother who, go and save Brother Fatty and the others. Brothers, we're all ready. Let's see who's so bold to bully our brothers in our territory. Chapter 675. Okay. Let's make sure these bastards don't return. Soon. They changed into their real weapons. But before they were ready to set off, an order suddenly sounded in their earpiece. Red team, don't be impulsive. Leave half of your team to protect Miss Bei Yunj. That's what you should do. Sergeant Gao's voice sounded again. This made Xiang Hongtao furious. Are they serious? They still want to send people to take care of this miss? Xiang Hongtao was the first to glance coldly at Bei Yunj. The others did not suspect anything. If they received the order, Xiang Hongtao would be the one to take care of Bei Yunj. Xiang Hongtao would most likely disobey the order. Let's make a plan first and go save her. Dai Dan said lightly. After that, she took out her laptop and opened it. She pulled up a map and roughly located the intruder's address. After a short discussion, Chen Hu left with half of the red team while the others stayed. Did someone ask you to protect me? Bei Yunj frowned without batting an eyelid. The others were silent. Although they knew that this had nothing to do with Bei Yunj, their brother was in danger now. They did not have a good expression. Only White Bear said, Miss Pei, don't worry. We're here. We won't let anything happen to you. He thought that Bei Yunj was afraid. That's not what I meant. Bei Yunj slowly moved the mouse arrow on the laptop. What I meant was that I don't need you to protect me. In her previous life, she had encountered a crisis because she was young. But after that, she had stayed in the district. Someone had taught her a lot. She really did not need to be protected. Miss Pei, if I didn't have to spend energy on you, my friends would have a higher chance of survival. Dai Dan glanced at Bei Yunj and said calmly. Everyone noticed that Dai Dan's hands were clenched into fists. She was already suppressing her anger and speaking politely to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj glanced at them and casually said to White Bear, Brother Bear, let's go to the minefield. No, Miss Pei, what if you're in danger, then I will bear the consequences. Bei Yunj took out a Bluetooth earpiece from her sleeve. This operation made the eyelids of the few people in the monitoring room twitch. Old Master Lang was silent for a long time. This is the first time I've seen someone smuggle private goods into the Great Eagle Forest. Sergeant Gao, should we stop Miss Pei from going in? I think it's too dangerous. No need. At this moment, Zhong Xinglin looked calmer than ever. No one can change her decision. But if one looked closely, they would find that Zhong Xinglin's hands were trembling. Hence, after Bei Yunj said that, White Bear really went in with Bei Yunj. This made Dai Dan and the others frown. It can't be. She's still causing trouble for us at a time like this? Dai Dan frowned and did not say anything. She just tensed up and listened to the situation on Team Red's side. When they heard another loud sound, their expressions changed. Captain. Dai Dan immediately took her laptop and ran inside. When the others saw this, they immediately followed. Miss Pei, what are you doing? White Bear heard the sound of typing on the keyboard and asked curiously. Can your two teams hear each other's commands? Bei Yunj adjusted her earpiece and asked. Chapter 676. White Bear paused for a moment and said, No, I can't. Bei Yunj's eyes darkened. She lowered her eyes and typed even faster on the keyboard. She said calmly, Wait a moment then. Miss Pei, what are you doing? White Bear stopped in his tracks and couldn't help but ask. At this moment, Dai Dan and the others also bumped into Bei Yunj and White Bear and overheard their conversation. Miss Pei, if you don't have anything else to do, please stay away. Dai Dan gritted her teeth and couldn't help but finish her sentence in one breath. Do you really want more of us to die? As soon as she finished speaking, Bei Yunj didn't answer and continued typing on the keyboard. White Bear was too tall and Dai Dan couldn't see what Bei Yunj was doing. She couldn't help but sneer. Does Miss Pei think that she has a solution? This isn't a game. I hope that even if Bei Yunj is being unreasonable, there's a limit to it. As soon as she finished speaking. Before Dai Dan could continue, Bei Yunj suddenly stopped typing on the computer. Her lazy eyebrows moved and the corners of her lips curled up lazily. Okay. What did you say? Before Dai Dan could finish speaking, Bei Yunj interrupted her. Then she heard Bei Yunj's voice in her earpiece. The girl's eyes were deep. She sat on White Bear's shoulder and adjusted her Bluetooth earpiece with one hand. Her voice was casual and clear. The blue and red team members heard her voice. I'm sorry to interrupt everyone. Next, I hope that everyone will listen to my instructions. Blue and red team members, take the injured and leave the minefield as quickly as possible. Bei Yunj looked at her watch and estimated the distance. 100 meters away. Suddenly, the two teams in front of them were facing enemies with high-end weapons. They heard a familiar voice in their earpiece. What the heck? What was going on? This voice, wasn't it the voice of that delicate girl? Could it be that she had snatched White Bear's walkie-talkie? Monkey, is that you? Suddenly, another voice sounded. Monkey? Monkey froze. Ching Shu, aren't you F*King part of Team Blue? How the F*K was the blue team able to hear their conversation? While the two teams were still in shock, Bei Yunj's voice rang out again. Everyone, I didn't give you time to catch up. At this moment. Only then did everyone react. The communication devices of their two teams were most likely modified by this seemingly useless young lady. But how did she have the ability to do that? Even Dai Dan, a top student in the computer science department of Yun University, couldn't do it. In the control room. How did Miss Pei do it? Sergeant Gao was shocked. How did Bei Yunj manage to control the communication devices of the two teams in such a short period of time? Subsequently, after Captain Gao asked, Old Master Lang and Zhong Xinglin looked at him with a "you're too ignorant" look. This is really unbelievable, okay? How was this technology? This was clearly science fiction. It was too amazing. Then why don't you see whose heir this is? Zhong Xinglin was smug. On the other hand, Old Master Lang felt an itch in his heart as he watched Bei Yunj skillfully command and analyze the situation. This little girl was indeed a good seedling to be a commander in the district. However, it was a pity. He could not win against Zhong Xinglin. Sergeant Gao, give the order. Let them listen to Yunj. Old Master Lang thought for a moment and made up his mind. Chapter 677. Captain Gao hesitated for a moment. But Miss Pei doesn't have any experience in commanding. This was not a drill, but an actual battle. Let her give it a try first. Old Master Lang pursed his lips. It's very likely that the other party has Meng Liang as well. Meng Liang was an outstanding geographer and was very good at computers. Unfortunately, Meng Liang had betrayed the country. Meng Liang? After Captain Gao reacted, he immediately gave everyone instructions. Team Red, Team Blue, listen to my orders. Everyone in Great Eagle Forest will listen to Miss Pei's arrangements. After saying that, Captain Gao hesitated for a moment. Miss Pei, please pay attention. The other party also has a high-tech criminal. It's Meng Liang. As soon as he finished speaking, Captain Gao originally thought that Bei Yunj would be nervous before this. However, he did not expect to hear Bei Yunj ask in the next moment, who is he? Captain Gao. A scholar who is proficient in geography and computers. Meng Liang knows too much. We're already sending more people. We won't let him leave the country. Bei Yunj's eyebrows twitched as she casually flexed her joints. Is that so? After Bei Yunj finished speaking, her hands did not stop typing. She changed the topic and ordered the others, everyone, report the casualties. Seeing this, Captain Gao turned around and asked in confusion, Miss Pei doesn't know Meng Liang? How was this possible? Wasn't Meng Liang a popular researcher in the country? Meng Liang had asked Gu Er's schedule a few times before, but he was rejected, Zhong Xinglin said. To be precise, she did not reject Meng Liang, but rejected everyone. Captain Gao, as expected, big shots had the temper of big shots no matter what field they were in. At this moment, after listening to everyone's report, Bai Yunj quickly came up with a plan. She said, the injured will avoid fighting. The dead will be sent away from the minefield as soon as possible. Hearing this, the others were puzzled by Bai Yunj's order. However, Captain Gao had given the command to Bai Yunj, so they could only listen to Bai Yunj. Xiang Hongtao gritted his teeth and listened to the disgusted voice in his earpiece. He had no choice but to do as Bai Yunj said. He wondered what Captain Gao was thinking. Everyone present was obviously more experienced than Bai Yunj, so why should they listen to Bai Yunj? Meanwhile, in the bushes in the hidden snow area near the minefield, the gang members frowned. Why is there no movement? Could it be that they retreated? Someone couldn't help but ask. Impossible. It's impossible for them to retreat. Meng Liang immediately retorted. His face darkened. He knew these people in his country better than anyone else. Retreating was worse than letting them die. Meng, aren't you overestimating these people? Someone couldn't help but laugh. Let me take a look. Meng Liang took a deep breath. This time, they had accidentally bumped into these people. It was also bad luck. But since he was given a chance to escape, he didn't want to be locked up again. He wanted to leave. I must leave this place. With this in mind, Meng Liang began searching the area's geographical location. At the same time, Bai Yunj saw the red dot jumping in the southwest area and her eyes curved. Her eyes were lazy and good-looking, exuding the spirit of a young man. In the surveillance room. Old Zhong, what's that red dot? Old Master Lang was confused. The others were also confused. Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. She seems to be setting up spots in the area to capture signals. Chapter 678. Everyone was speechless. It sounded quite simple. But was this even done by a human? I'm not too sure either. I'm a serious computer student, so I don't know much about this. Zhong Xinglin's eyelids twitched. Everyone was speechless. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have thought that Bai Yunj would even know this. The signal points near the Great Eagle Forest were very weak. They almost had to rely on the official signals of the warring party to survey the terrain. Those who did not know would think that Bai Yunj was in the command room in the district. At this moment, seeing that the other party was retrieving the terrain, Bai Yunj was not in a hurry. Instead, she scanned the terrain and began to make changes. After all this was done, Bai Yunj suddenly smiled. South of the minefield, report the number of people. Captain, Chinhu almost blurted out, Captain, but when he regained his senses, he immediately said, Miss Pei, 18 people, 18 people? That's enough. Bai Yunj's eyes were filled with a cold glint as the corners of her lips curled up slightly. 18 people south of the minefield, pay attention. Walk back to the hidden area. Get ready to shoot from afar and throw the grenades. As soon as she finished speaking, everyone could not react in time. What did Bai Yunj mean by giving this order? She did not know where the enemy was, so why did she have to command them like this? Xiang Hongtao gritted his teeth and hid behind the grass. His eyes were filled with sarcasm and uncontrollable anger. Bai Yunj, you'd better have some ability. At this moment, Dai Dan could not help but look at Bai Yunj. She frowned and said calmly, Miss Pei, that's 18 lives. That will be within my consideration. Miss Dai's mission is to take care of yourself. Bai Yunj looked up slightly and glanced at her before she said carelessly. Her lazy gaze was a little intimidating. It was very difficult to find something like patience in Bai Yunj. In the monitoring room, Zhong Xinglin looked at Old Master Leng, who wanted to say something but hesitated. He answered the question in their hearts expressionlessly. If nothing goes wrong, this guy changed the information and gave the other party a fake map. Therefore, Bai Yunj had already planned this. He wanted those people to think that he had an accurate map and could guess the exact location of the people in the war zone. But who would have thought, yet, there were still people who could effortlessly tamper with the map. This way, Meng Liang would definitely choose the best spot to attack based on the map Bai Yunj had given him. But what they didn't expect was that the other party had long been waiting to wipe them out. The corner of Old Master Leng's mouth twitched. Do you all have so many tricks up your sleeves? He didn't know how to do that either, all right? Zhong Xinglin rolled his eyes. He could not be bothered to argue with Old Master Leng and said, by the way, you'd better check the terrain data in the area and see if you need to re-record. Has it been changed? Old Leng's loud voice gave Zhong Xinglin a fright. Are you blind? Didn't I change it in front of you? Zhong Xinglin snapped angrily. Old Master Leng, this group of researchers was indeed black-hearted. Old Master Leng's eyelids twitched at the thought of Bai Yunj's high-end operations. Fortunately, the person who knew these things was Bai Yunj. If it were anyone else, the consequences would be unimaginable. A few minutes later. As expected, Meng Liang's brows relaxed. According to the topographic map, they are very likely to be in the north. Everyone, go around the minefield and head south. The chances of winning with a surprise attack like this will be higher. Hearing Meng Liang's words, the others did not doubt him. After all, they were able to successfully kill the two of them just now because Meng Liang's judgment was correct. That minefield seems to have a lower chance of hiding lightning. We have detectors, so why go through so much trouble? The blonde man said impatiently. But if there's an ambush, your danger in the minefield will be greatly increased. Meng Liang frowned. These people's impression of Country A was still in the past. However, they did not know that Country A could not be underestimated now. What kind of ambush can they think of? Ricky, follow me and go straight to the minefield. Use the fastest speed to get rid of these weaklings. With that said, that person ignored Meng Liang's suggestion and walked straight to the minefield. This scene made Meng Liang feel inexplicably flustered. However, thinking about it, according to the topographic map, there were no hidden areas in the South District. Those people were most likely hiding in the North District. He did not need to panic. Lu Da's actions were at most a little dangerous, but nothing would happen. Thinking of this, Meng Liang heaved a sigh of relief and sat in the car, waiting for Lu Da and the rest. A few minutes later, the members of Team Blue and Team Red didn't expect to see their target approaching. The long-range shooter could not help but say, F***CK. Is Miss Pei a fortune teller? Wasn't this 2F***King accurate? She was really here. Everyone, pay attention to the target. After Chen Hu came back to his senses, he immediately took control of the front field. Not long after, Lu Da, Ricky, and the rest finally realized that something was wrong. Captain, didn't you say that this is the stone forest? Why are there so many bushes? Ricky asked instinctively. When Lu Da heard this, his strong sixth sense made him feel a sense of danger. He had been ambushed. Oh no, everyone, retreat. The moment Lu Da gave the order, there was a sudden thud and a teammate fell. This made them panic. What was going on? Why was this happening? Hurry up and go back. Hide behind the forest. Lu Da dodged the shot and was agile. Soon, he hid in a safe area. However, seeing that 3 of his brothers had died this time, he could not help but grit his teeth, his eyes filled with anger. Why was there an ambush from Country A in the south? As Lu Da thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was. The next moment, he saw a grenade being thrown in front of him. F***CK. Lu Da's expression was ugly and he could not help but curse. After so many years, his battle results could be considered brilliant. He originally thought that it was more than enough to deal with these people from country A. However, he did not expect such an accident to happen. Why was there an ambush from country A in the south? As Luda thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was, the next moment, he saw a grenade being thrown in front of him. F***ck. Lu Da's expression was ugly and he could not help but curse. After so many years, his battle results could be considered brilliant. He originally thought that it was more than enough to deal with these people from country A. However, he did not expect such an accident to happen. Why was there an ambush from country A in the south? As Luda thought about it, he started shooting not far away. However, what he did not expect was. Chapter 679. She did not expect things to go according to Bai Yunja's plan. Dai Dan clenched her fists and pursed her lips. On the other side, Bai Yunj looked at the screen and ignored everyone. No emotions could be seen in his quiet and beautiful eyes. In the monitoring room. Good job. Old Master Lang could not help but be excited and happy. It was too beautiful. These people should be taught a lesson. Since they had already violated their borders, it was clearly a provocation to them. Even Captain Gao's brows relaxed. He was a little curious about Bai Yunj. Why did he seem to know so much about the district? Old Zhong, if we have nothing to do in the future, let Gu come here often. Zhong Xinglin pushed Old Master Leng away. Go, go, go. My Gu is a treasure. How can she often come to your stinky men's place? At this moment, Meng Liang, who received the call, froze. Old Master Lang was speechless. Hearing this, Meng Liang's mind was in a mess. How was that possible? What did you say? Luda said, your map is fake. Ricky is injured. Stone Forest? Where did Stone Forest come from? Think of a way. If we don't get rid of those people, we won't be able to go back. Luda was also injured. When he was treating his wound, he could not help but gasp. How could this be? This could not be fake. He had clearly gotten it from the district. Meng Liang was sweating profusely. Meng Liang gritted his teeth and could only bite the bullet and turn on his laptop. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not enter anyone's device. White Bear heard the sound of typing and did not dare to disturb Bai Yunj. 10 minutes later. Soon. Bai Yunj estimated the time and locked onto the communication message. In the SUV on the other end. Suddenly, Meng Liang heard a voice ring twice. Bai Yunj adjusted his earpiece. Meng Liang was stunned for a moment. His scalp went numb and his voice trembled. Who are you? How was it possible for someone to infiltrate another person's communication device without anyone noticing? Before he could react, another clear and pleasant voice sounded. Mr. Meng, how are you? The next moment, her voice became much colder, and there was a hint of a smile in her voice. But Mr. Meng, do you know the crime of killing a military officer of our country? Meng Liang could roughly tell that she was a very young lady. After calming himself down, he laughed again. I'm sorry for using such an impolite way to talk to you. Bai Yunj's voice was lazy, and there was no hint of apology in it. Bai Yunj licked her lips and chuckled. As for the other team members who heard the conversation between Bai Yunj and Meng Liang, they were a little afraid that Bai Yunj would be brainwashed. Little girl, you must be very young, right? I don't know how you interfered with my communication device. But you have to understand that in this world, people die for wealth and birds die for food. I'm only doing this out of humanity. After all, Bai Yunj was still young and had not experienced much bloodshed. How about this, I'll make a deal with you. Let me go. I won't divulge any secrets. Oh, by the way, I still have a research project that I'm willing to give to you. Meng Liang was full of confidence. Many people outside are fighting for this research project. Little girl, don't worry. As long as you have this project, your boss won't blame you. What if I'm not willing? Pei Yunj enunciated each word slowly. Chapter 680. Hearing this, Meng Liang's expression darkened. Not long after, he laughed. Through the earpiece, everyone could hear the sinister and cold tone in his voice. Young lady, you're still young. Do you have to chase after me so relentlessly and gamble your life? Bei Yunj did not stop typing. She chuckled again, her clear voice pleasant to the ear. She smiled casually. I never gamble with my life. On the other hand, Mr. Meng, you can think of your last words first. These words. Meng Liang's face darkened. He did not know why this young lady was so arrogant. Fortunately, he still had a backup plan. A strange glint flashed across Meng Liang's eyes. He took the opportunity to send out the things he had prepared on the way. Seeing that the information was being transmitted, Meng Liang's brows relaxed and he laughed maniacally. Young lady, you're still too inexperienced. He had taken the opportunity to say so much to her just now because he wanted Bei Yunj to lower her guard and stall for time. Meng Liang was extremely excited when he saw that the information was about to be transmitted. He immediately drove the SUV in the direction Luda had mentioned. However, Bei Yunj looked down and saw the new number transmission. Her lips curled up and she sent it back to the district. In the monitoring room, Zhong Xinglin's eyes flashed. When he saw the message on the computer, he immediately went forward to receive it. This made Old Master Leng focus and forget to ask him. After opening the document, Zhong Xinglin said, Old Master Leng, come and see what Gu sent just now. Old Master Leng quickly went forward to size it up. However, when he saw the information inside, his expression changed. His face was ashen as he gritted his teeth. This son of AB** TCH, should be shot. What's wrong? Why are you so angry? It was rare for Zhong Xinglin to see Old Master Leng so angry. Love House, this is the address of our country's underground nuclear engineering laboratory. Old Master Leng clenched his fists and took a deep breath. Zhong Xinglin's expression changed. Of course, he knew how important this address was to their country. Yu Guang seemed to have participated in this laboratory in the past. He had disappeared from the public eye for almost 10 years. After he came out, he was more than 10 years older than his peers, and his body was no longer as before. She had just been discharged from the hospital half a year ago. Luckily, Gu intercepted it. Zhong Xinglin heaved a sigh of relief. Hearing this, Old Master Leng closed his eyes and nodded. If this thing were to spread out, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, for Meng Liang, a geographer, to be able to obtain such a thing, it also meant that there were people among them who were unclean. 10 minutes later, Meng Liang successfully received Ruda, Ricky, and company. But in the blink of an eye, he realized that the data transfer had failed. When he clicked on it to take a look, the data was severely damaged. How was this possible? Meng Liang's expression changed as he immediately picked up his earpiece. His eyes under his glasses were filled with anger. Is it you? Did you do it? Bei Yunj was the only one who could hear their conversation. Which one are you talking about? Bei Yunj asked casually. Are you the one who cut off my signal? Who the hell are you? Meng Liang could no longer hold it in. He was so angry that his heart hurt. How could he have encountered such a thing? A voice that clearly sounded like a young lady had actually destroyed all of his plans. Chapter 681. Bei Yunj said calmly, I didn't intercept your signal. The next moment, without waiting for Meng Liang to retort, she said gently, I'm just trying to see if I can monopolize this signal area. However, it was obvious. From Meng Liang's experience, it was possible. When Meng Liang heard Bei Yunj's words, his scalp went numb. This person's computer skills were definitely not simple. Apart from the few technical big shots at the top, almost no one could do this. Meng Liang's blood surged to his throat. What exactly are you trying to do? Bei Yunji's signal could not be sent out. The signal given to him from the outside could not be sent in. He was completely trapped. Initially, Meng Liang was full of confidence and felt that he could deal with this group of people. But who knew that such a link would appear? Half an hour. The girl's unhurried voice entered his ears word by word clearly, and the call was hung up. Meng Liang wanted to continue speaking, but he could no longer contact her. His face was pale and his body trembled slightly. For the first time, he was completely passive. What's wrong? Are there people negotiating with you? Did they make any conditions? Lu De looked at Meng Liang's expression and thought that the other party had made some difficult conditions for them to surrender. Who knew? Meng Liang gritted his teeth and turned to look at Lu De. She said, half an hour. This meant, obviously, it was not a simple meaning. Arrogant. Who does she think she is? How dare she be so arrogant? Half an hour? Lu De sneered and pressed down on his seat. He took out the box and opened it. Inside was a brand new black wooden warehouse. They won't let us go? Then they'll have to go to hell. Lu Da's face was fierce. Hearing this, Meng Liang moved his lips, but he didn't say a word. He was about to turn on the computer when he realized that the computer was in an unstable blue screen. First Chinese network. A few seconds later, he realized what was going on. It was that person again. Meng Liang gritted his teeth and threw the computer out. What's wrong with you? Lu De turned to look at him. Be careful, they might have a computer expert. Meng Liang clenched his fists. His tone was filled with reluctance and fear. He's a real computer expert. Bei Yunj threw the laptop to Dai Dan. Topographic map. Dai Dan subconsciously hugged it tightly. When she opened it, her heart trembled violently. This is... White Bear came over and squatted down to take a look. Isn't this a map of the headquarters? Miss Pei, where did you come from? White Bear asked curiously. Someone gave it to me. Bei Yunj didn't blush at all. In the control room. Captain Gao? Old Master Leng? We don't even know what nonsense you're spouting. Then these red dots, Dai Dan asked subconsciously. Bei Yunj glanced around and noticed that one of the red dots was missing. She could roughly guess what had happened. She curled her lips lazily. People these days have quite a temper. He even smashed his computer. With that said, Bei Yunj changed the topic. It's the other party's equipment positioning, but there's no guarantee that they haven't split into two teams. However, judging from their actions just now, there aren't many of them. There are about 15 of them. Dai Dan clenched her fists. White Bear could still foolishly believe that Bei Yunj was given the map by someone else. But how could she not see it? Chapter 682. Especially this location. It was no longer something a normal computer student could do. Dai Dan looked at Bei Yunj with a complicated expression. She took a deep breath and asked, then. Miss Pei, where are you going? I want White Bear to accompany me to get some food. Bei Yunj said slowly, I don't really like dry food. Dai Dan pursed her lips. Miss Pei, this area is still very dangerous. Isn't it more dangerous to follow you? Bei Yunj was still unhurried and matter-of-factly. I have to be responsible for my own safety. Everyone, that made sense. Bei Yunj said, I'm not a professional, so I won't trouble you. Everyone. You're too humble. Just now, they had minded this young lady commanding them. Now, they were very unwilling to let Bei Yunj leave. The few people behind could only watch as Bei Yunj left. In the monitoring room. Old Master Lang and the others did not have the time to look at Bei Yunj. They instinctively felt that nothing would happen to this guy. Instead, they focused on the red and blue team's actions. It had to be said that with Bei Yunj's topographic map and the enemy's location, the red and blue team gradually gained the upper hand. But not long after. Meng Liang and the others also realized that they seemed to know their whereabouts like the back of their hand. Along the way, Lu De and the others were injured and in a sorry state. They cursed uncontrollably. I got it. Meng Liang reacted instantly and felt a chill run down his spine. Quick! Throw the equipment into the lake. What? Why? Everyone asked. That person might have located our location. Quick, we're about to lose it. Meng Liang couldn't even speak clearly. He only felt that the girl's strength was too shocking. How could there be someone with such a terrifying technical ability? How is this possible? Meng Liang, have you gone crazy? With the current computer technology, how is it possible? Do you want to die? Meng Liang roared. He knew that there were some people with powerful computer skills who were unwilling to appear in the public, nor were they willing to be used by any forces. Fortunately, such people usually wouldn't destroy social harmony. This also made people underestimate computer experts. But at this moment, Meng Liang had seen these operations the entire day and felt that he was also surprised. He knew that some hidden experts were very powerful. But this girl, if it was exposed to any faction, it would be fought over. Dai Dan's expression changed. What's going on? All the red dots have disappeared? Should we contact Miss Pei? Someone asked at once. When Dai Dan heard this, she felt inexplicably uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth. No need. Subsequently, Dai Dan told Captain Fatty what she had roughly guessed. This was the safe zone. Brother Xiong, can you do it? Bei Yunja's eyelids twitched when she saw that the white bear couldn't even hit a hair after so many hits. Miss Pei, you shouldn't humiliate a man like this. White Bear was very serious. Bei Yunj was speechless. She took a deep breath and went forward to take the white bear's wooden box. However, the white bear hugged the wooden box tightly. Bei Yunj was confused. Give it to me. White Bear's face turned red. The tall man started to feel awkward in front of Bei Yunj. Why are you hitting the little hare? Let's go and see something else. I just want to eat the little hare. Bei Yunja's lips twitched and she started to snatch it again. Chapter 683. She looked like she couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with White Bear. But the next moment, Bei Yunj had just grabbed the weapon when the white bear blocked Bei Yunja's way with his body. Bei Yunj tried to calm herself down. Let's make a deal. What exactly do you want? Look at that rabbit. It seems quite big, White Bear said. Bei Yunj, ? White Bear still wanted to use its lack of language to influence Bei Yunj and try to make Bei Yunj regain her conscience. What if it's Daddy Rabbit? There might still be babies and Mommy Rabbit waiting for it at home. Looking at Bei Yunja's silence, White Bear felt that he was about to succeed. If we kill it, won't we destroy someone else's happy family? Bei Yunj couldn't help but look up at him. The urge to press White Bear's head into the ground was almost uncontrollable. The next moment, Bei Yunj smiled slightly. Why don't you think that Daddy Rabbit is a scumbag who cheated on you? There must be an effect for every cause and its retribution is me. White Bear. A few minutes later, Bei Yunj looked at White Bear sitting on the ground with a little rabbit in his arms and smiled honestly. How did this person, who didn't kill, enter the war zone? Did he not train to eat in the wild? Bei Yunja's eyebrows twitched. In the end, he squatted down slowly and poked the little rabbit's head with his index finger. He smiled lazily and asked, Aren't you going to send it home? A little rabbit can't be a scumbag. White Bear seemed to really like this cute little animal. He hugged it for a long time reluctantly. Finally, after White Bear let go of the rabbit, the two of them sat down to eat the dry food. Bei Yunj hadn't eaten dry food for a long time. He only ate a little and gave up eating. You didn't eat these when you were training? Bei Yunj drank some water and asked. Love me. I've eaten them before, but they were all live snakes and scorpions. After all, we don't have a choice if we encounter an unexpected situation. White Bear said sincerely. Bai Yunj nodded and rested her chin on her hand as she looked at the time. More than 20 minutes had passed. Suddenly, White Bear received the news in his headset. White Bear, please answer if you hear me. Got it. What happened? White Bear asked immediately. Is Miss Pei here? The other party seems to know about it. We have equipment on our side. White Bear immediately relayed the message to Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj's eyes twitched. It's been so long. Isn't it normal to know? White Bear, then what should we do now? Don't forget your natural advantage when you lure people into the minefield. White Bear thought for a while before he understood what Bai Yunj meant. All right. Soon. Luda, who had finally turned the tables, couldn't help but laugh. He deliberately used the loudspeaker of the SUV and spoke in the language of country a great country? It's just a so-so. Where are they? Didn't I ask you to look for Miss Pei? Fatty gritted his teeth and asked. Miss Pei asked us to lure people into the minefield. Hearing this, Fatty was stunned. Minefield? At this moment, Chen Hu reacted faster than Fatty. Brothers, south of the minefield. The south of the minefield was the minefield they had set up. Team Blue and Team Red, who scored full marks in the previous minefield assessment. Fatty also had an epiphany and reacted. Luda and the others sensed an unusual aura. Chapter 684. This group of people isn't that powerful. Luda's team members, who had the upper hand again, obviously did not take their opponents seriously. Don't underestimate the enemy. However, Luda was still a little traumatized. How did that person do it and locate all of their members? If they were able to master this kind of technology, Luda could not suppress the greed in his eyes, but his rationality reminded him. That person was not to be trifled with, and he probably would not join his faction easily. At the same time, Chen Hu and the others had already started to lure the bait. Lin Shui, you must be careful. I believe in your speed. The weather gradually turned cold, but the few people who were lying in ambush were sweating profusely. They could only force themselves to focus. Captain, don't worry. I will definitely complete the mission. Lin Shui swallowed his saliva, gritted his teeth, and quickly passed through the forest. At the same time, the sound of a wooden gun quickly rang out, shocking everyone. Lin Shui. Chen Hu shouted. Lin Shui's body was agile and he quickly dodged the bullet. However, his clothes were torn at his knees. Zhong Xinglin, who was watching the scene, could not help but be shocked. It was too difficult to protect this land. Aren't we letting these bastards risk their lives? It was Zhong Xinglin's first time seeing such a scene. Old Master Leng smiled at him. Otherwise, do you think you can be so safe sitting in the computing institute? Zhong Xinglin was speechless. Lin Shui has always been a very capable newcomer in our district. Nothing must happen to him. Captain Gao could not help but clench his fists and mutter. A few minutes later, Lu Da's teammates could not help but curse. F*CK, is he provoking us? Ba Shan Academy. He had been jumping around in front of them. The most infuriating thing was that they could not hit him. He had been jumping around all this time. Lu Da's expression darkened. Moss, go and change the wooden gun. Hearing that, Moss immediately understood. He immediately went to the back and took out the box. When he opened it, it was a wooden gun. The corners of Moss's mouth curled into a strange sneer, with a hint of viciousness. Are you jumping around blindly? I'll send you to hell. At the same time, Lin Shui was accidentally hit in the thigh and his speed gradually decreased. On Dai Dan's side, she was also looking for the enemy's approximate location and getting people to sneak in. Lin Shui. Quickly find a place to hide. Chen Hu said. Dai Dan's voice suddenly rang out, no. If Lin Shui is hiding, they will discover our movements. When Chen Hu's team members heard this, they were enraged. What the F***ck do you mean? If you lose, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Dai Dan pursed her lips, but her hand was still looking for the location. In the control room. What's wrong with you girls? Zhong Xinglin asked. At this time, it's normal for her to do this in order to be foolproof. Old Master Lang understood Dai Dan's cold-blooded actions very well. But Zhong Xinglin frowned. But she didn't find the location at all. How can you be so sure that nothing will go wrong? Zhong Xinglin was puzzled. Old Master Lang and Captain Gao were stunned when they heard that. What did you say? They were laymen. When they saw the few dots on the computer, they thought that Dai Dan had found the exact location. She ordered it herself. Are you kidding me? All the internet equipment is gone. How can she find the location? Zhong Xinglin frowned. Chapter 685. What's wrong with this female comrade? Old Master Lang was about to explode. This was the first time he had seen such an impulsive person. Captain Gao pursed his lips and could not help but frown. She wants to win. However, Dai Dan was too confident. She thought she could make the right bet. But now, she was gambling with someone else's life. And it was her teammate's life. You want to win like this? Old Master Lang's expression was ugly. I'll give the order. At this moment, just as Captain Gao finished speaking, another person suddenly appeared on camera. He was holding a wooden gun. Captain Gao subconsciously blurted out, Lin Shui, be careful. Lin Shui turned his head and noticed Moss. Go to hell. Moss laughed as he lifted the wooden gun. Soon, bullets shot out like a storm. Lin Shui immediately hid behind a tree, but the bullets were too old, so he was inevitably hit by 2 bullets. They heard Lin Shui's painful groan. The people from both teams were in their throats. Lin Shui. Chen Hu subconsciously shouted and immediately said, Lin Shui, leave quickly. The tree will fall. However, at this moment, Lin Shui's leg was injured and he could not move at all. He could not avoid the bullets. Lin Shui gritted his teeth and glanced at the grass beside him. He noticed the low slope behind him. He made up his mind and rushed to the right. After bending his knees, his entire body quickly rolled down the low slope. Even old Master Lang became nervous at this scene. Moss's expression darkened when he saw that the person had actually dodged while he was not paying attention. He changed the handle of the wooden gun and gradually walked over. So there's a low slope. Moss sneered. Very good, this will be your burial ground. With that said, Moss walked towards the low slope. When Lin Shui also picked up the wooden gun and knew that he only had 1 bullet left, he took a deep breath. Lin Shui gritted his teeth and focused on the slope. At this moment, however, Moss wanted to catch Lin Shui off guard. He walked from the side of the low slope and saw the back of Lin Shui's head. His eyes were dark as he sneered silently. The wooden gun silently met Lin Shui's head. Lin Shui, be careful. Captain Gao subconsciously shouted. The people in the monitoring room were also on tenterhooks. But before Lin Shui could react, it was already too late. Lin Shui couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Just as he turned his head, he heard the sound of a wooden barn. He quickly closed his eyes. But after 2 or 3 seconds, he didn't feel any pain. What's going on? Lin Shui subconsciously turned his head and saw Bai Yunj not far away. One of her beautiful eyes was closed, and her finger was still on the trigger. No one noticed that the evil redness in the depths of the girl's eyes was constantly moving. Miss Pei? Lin Shui's voice caused everyone to be stunned. Miss Pei saved Lin Shui? The evil redness in the girl's eyes gradually disappeared. Bei Yunja's eyes flickered. He quickly turned around and pulled the trigger at the foreign man who had suddenly stood up on the mountain top in the distance. He could only see that the person not far away had fallen to the ground. This move shocked White Bear greatly. "Miss Pei, what are you doing?" Bei Yunj threw the weapon back to White Bear. "I didn't have time to tell you just now." "White Bear, so you did it yourself?" Originally, White Bear thought that Bei Yunj needed his protection. But now, he couldn't tell who he was protecting. Chapter 686. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, the White Bear obediently carried him up. Lin Shui, who was carried up. "Wait, let's bandage it first." Bei Yunj saw the blood on Lin Shui's leg and subconsciously took a step back. Lin Shui, could his disdain be any more obvious? After Bei Yunj sensed Lin Shui's complicated gaze, he added, "I'm a little dizzy from seeing blood." "Lin Shui, that's not what the wooden warehouse in your hand said just now." In the monitoring room, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Bei Yunj had arrived in time just now. If Bei Yunj had not come at that time, Lin Shui would have lost his life. "Miss Pei, why does she know how to use a wooden warehouse?" Captain Gao now felt that Bei Yunj was really mysterious. The first time they met, she looked like a rich and powerful young lady. But in the end, this person kept breaking everyone's understanding. Not only was she the rumored scientific researcher, but she also knew how to use a wooden warehouse. Where did such a godlike person come from? Old Master Lang looked at the girl on the screen and felt his heart ache. If it weren't for the fact that Zhong Xinglin had gone crazy searching for an heir for so many years, he would definitely snatch her away from him. This guy was really too good of a seedling. Zhong Xinglin was really lucky. Only Cui Hengchuan kept taking notes. There was a hint of seriousness in his gentle eyes. "Dr. Cui, what did you find?" Zhong Xinglin turned around and asked curiously. "Nothing." Cui Hengchuan smiled. When Zhong Xinglin nodded and did not pay any more attention, he was deep in thought. The emotions that appeared in Bei Yunja's eyes just now appeared in his mind. It was a coldness that had never appeared before and some kind of emotion that had been stimulated. However, not long after, Bei Yunj controlled it very well. A hint of interest flashed across Cui Hengchuan's eyes. He could not help but take out a photo of Bei Yunj. Not long after, he did not put it back in the medical record. Instead, he put it in the pocket of his white coat. Meanwhile, the few people who were supposed to infiltrate were almost all injured. When Dai Dan heard this news, her expression changed. How is that possible? She couldn't have analyzed it wrongly. Tiger Chen and Fatty both knew what was going on, but on the field, no one wanted to pursue the matter. "Dai Dan, we'll settle this when we get back." After Chen Hu finished speaking, he asked, "Miss Pei, are you there?" A clear and pleasant voice was like a calming pill, making people feel at ease. "Yes, it's here." Soon, Chen Hu analyzed the current situation to Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj didn't have a computer, so he could only recall the topographic map. The bushes over there are too easily exposed. They won't hide there. Let's see if there's a river with more floating grass. Bei Yunj remembered that there was such a terrain in that area. Not long after, the people who were still surveying exclaimed in surprise, There's such a river." "Miss Pei, what happened next?" "What happened next?" Pei Yunja's lips curled up as she said slowly, "Throw the grenade in and hide further away." Everyone, they didn't know why. Sometimes, when they were facing Miss Pei, their scalps would go numb. When she heard Bei Yunja's voice, Dai Dan pursed her lips. Her thoughts were in a mess. She kept thinking about her wrong judgment. She was 90% confident about this matter. But now that she had failed, she might be punished. Chapter 687. On the other side. A few team members followed Bei Yunji's instructions and threw a grenade into the river. Not long after, a loud explosion caused a huge wave. The fire spread, and even the driftwood turned red for a moment. Soon, they stuck their heads out and saw that the green river had turned blood red. Their scalps went numb. Fortunately, they did not cross the river just now. Otherwise, they would not have known that there was someone hiding in the water. Reporting, Miss Pei is telling the truth. There's someone inside. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. At the same time, this made Dai Dan's heart tighten. She also had a question that troubled her. And this question happened to be asked by someone else first. How did Miss Pei know that there was someone in the river? Bei Yunji was not at the scene. Bei Yunji adjusted his earphones and lowered their volume. I guessed it according to the topographic map just now. Hearing this, White Bear and Lin Shui could not help but look at Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji did not have a computer. It was obvious that he had just memorized the topographic map. This brain capacity, everyone's scalps went numb. When Dai Dan heard this, her heart ached even more. She felt like she had been slapped in the face. She could not even compare to an unprofessional girl. Along the way, Bei Yunji had been listening to Chen Hu and Fatty's arrangements most of the time. He was calm and casual. He would only give them some advice occasionally. Lu Da's face was ashen. What's going on here? Lu Da, is it the girl who saved that person just now? The injured team member asked. Lu Da could not help but frown when he heard this. How was this possible? At this moment, Meng Liang was more excited than anyone else. It's her. It must be her. You know her? Didn't you say that that person is a computer expert? Lu Da asked. But how could a real battlefield only test computer skills? If that was the case, then there was no need for them. Meng Liang immediately shook his head. Lu Da, that person is not simple. Don't underestimate her. Lu Da gritted his teeth. Only then did he realize how peaceful his first 20 years as a mercenary had been. But now, he was being completely suppressed by a little girl. I understand. Lu Da gritted his teeth and his gaze darkened. This time, he had to take it seriously. Lu Da opened his palm and glanced at his AI chip. His expression turned cold as he swallowed the item. Lu Da, you. Meng Liang did not have the time to say anything. If I die, they must come and take my body. Lu Da instructed his subordinates. His subordinate was not convinced. It's just a woman. Lu Da, don't be too negative. That's right, that hateful woman. I must kill her. Lu Da also had a ferocious expression. He had actually forced him to this extent. Indeed, he deserved to die. Miss Pei, you're really a genius. You're too amazing. Someone couldn't help but praise. Bei Yunji said unhurriedly, the other party has been fooled for so long. He'll be serious. Does Miss Pei have any ideas? Someone immediately asked. It was as if Bei Yunji could solve all problems. Yes. Bei Yunji responded and said slowly, everyone, do your best. Protect me well. Everyone was speechless. Bei Yunji glanced at his watch and remained calm. He estimated that there were still 20 minutes. Soon. What was unexpected was that Chen Hu actually managed to capture Meng Liang with his men. Meng Liang struggled with all his might. Let go of me. I'm no longer a household register here. You have no right to touch me. Chapter 688. As he struggled, Meng Liang saw an excessively beautiful girl beside him. Are you the person who called me just now? Who are you? Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows and glanced at the middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s, but she had no intention of paying attention to him. She glanced at her watch and smiled lazily. 14 minutes. Meng Liang immediately realized that Bei Yunji had said 1 hour. Then, He couldn't help but laugh crazily. Do you think you've won? Let me tell you, you've lost. Seeing this, the others couldn't help but frown. They felt that Meng Liang was implying something. Bei Yunji's eyes flashed and she quickly thought of something. Meng Liang's smile gradually disappeared and he looked at her warily. What are you trying to say? Bei Yunj walked around him and sized up the off-road vehicle. She asked intentionally or unintentionally, your off-road vehicle doesn't seem to have much oil. Meng Liang immediately panicked when he was asked this, but he pretended to be calm. You've already planned this route in the Great Eagle Forest, right? Bei Yunji's voice sounded slowly. Hearing this, no idiot would blatantly fly at high altitudes near the war zone. Bei Yunj was wearing black leather gloves and playing with the bristlegrass in her hands slowly. Her eyes were impudent and arrogant. Isn't that right, Mr. Meng? Don't waste your time. I won't reveal it. Team Tiger, go to the nearby river zone and search for people. Meng Liang's heart skipped a beat when he heard Bei Yunji's voice. Fear gradually spread. This girl who looked young was really too scary. Search in the south of the river zone. There's a cliff in the north. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, Fatty hesitated for a moment and asked tentatively, Miss Pei, do you remember all the topographic maps? Bei Yunj changed the topic and suddenly looked at Meng Liang. Her beautiful and bright eyes seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. You, Meng Liang felt inexplicably guilty. You're too arrogant. In the control room. Does this brain really exist? Old Master Leng asked a question that Si Qingyan asked every day. This area isn't too big. Bei Yunj said. Everyone, this hopeless academic flunky. It was just 2 foreign names, but they had actually become so wordy. Zhong Xinglin glanced at Old Master Leng. How else do you think she got both the Farisk and Busaka nominations? All right. Stop arguing. It gives me a headache, Old Master Leng immediately said. Zhong Xinglin, Bei Yunj shouted, White Bear. When White Bear heard the coldness in Bei Yunj's tone, he quickly stepped forward and punched Meng Liang in the stomach. It made Meng Liang's face contort. After seeing a bug like Bei Yunj with his own eyes, Meng Liang was a little devastated. Let me go. Let me go. I'm telling you, there's no way you can win. Before Meng Liang could finish speaking. This action shocked everyone. They all looked at White Bear in confusion. When did he have such a good relationship with Miss Pei? Bei Yunj walked up to him and patted his face gently with a gentle smile. Her eyes were casual and arrogant. This isn't something you should worry about, understand? Miss Pei, do you want to come with us? Fatty thought for a moment and asked. Chapter 689. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and glanced at White Bear, but she agreed. That's great. White Bear was the happiest. He wanted to participate in this mission as well. However, he had to stay away from the danger zone to protect Bei Yunj. Let's drive. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows when she saw the broken window of the Jeep. Miss Pei, do you know how to drive? Yes. After Bei Yunj said that, White Bear became excited again. He couldn't hide his joy. That's great. However, a few minutes later, another thing suddenly occurred to them. Miss Pei, how old are you this year? I'm almost 20. Bei Yunj sat in the driver's seat and answered. Do you have a driver's license? Bei Yunj paused and glanced at Chen Hu. She smiled and said, no. The next moment, before anyone could react, Bei Yunj stepped on the accelerator and drove to the maximum speed. Everyone. Soon. They were near the river zone. Everyone took a deep breath. If not for their good physical fitness, they would have been killed by Bei Yunj's driving skills. They couldn't let Bei Yunj drive next time. This was their first thought. However, Bei Yunj glanced at the marks on the ground and her sharp eyes saw some inconspicuous bloodstains. It's right in front. Bei Yunj said in an orderly manner. Hearing this, everyone scanned their surroundings and quickly headed towards the river zone. Over there. White Bear said immediately. Parkway. Everyone turned to look at the yacht not far away. However, in the next second, Bei Yunj's eyes moved and she quickly pulled White Bear back. Be careful of the bullets. Fortunately, Bei Yunj's warning was fast enough. Everyone avoided the bullets. In the blink of an eye. The next round of battle began again. However, the gradually increasing distance, the yacht's constantly changing route, and the cunning opponent made him feel somewhat powerless. Unable to accurately hit the enemy. Bei Yunj thought for a moment, then adjusted his Bluetooth, and his voice was clearly heard by everyone. Do you know where the yacht's gasoline is stored? Break through the iron sheet and the storage box. Hearing this, everyone quickly changed their target, which made the few people on the yacht feel a little strange. Why were these people getting more and more off target? But soon, they reacted. They're attacking our fuel tanks. Luda and the others' faces changed. At this moment, when Bei Yunj saw that there was a gas leak, she asked White Bear, do you have tracers? White Bear braced himself. No. Bei Yunj, what about the incendiary bombs? I do. White Bear quickly loaded the incendiary bomb into the gun. What are you going to do with it? Bei Yunj looked at the people on the yacht and already knew their intentions. She did not have time to explain to White Bear. She took the wooden gun from White Bear, closed her left eye gently, and aimed at the spot where the oil was leaking. Her slender finger pressed the trigger. There was a loud bang. A flash of fire passed through and ignited the gasoline on the surface of the sea. Then, the entire simple yacht burst into flames. In an instant, the entire place was ablaze. Everyone present was shocked. They subconsciously looked at the girl who had just opened the gun. Was she really not King trained person? Go and catch them. Don't let them escape. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Luda and the others cursed along the way, saying that these people were playing dirty tricks. Chapter 690. Luda, there's someone there. Hearing this, Luda immediately raised the wooden gun and prepared to kill that person. But the next moment, a strange light flashed across his eyes and he put down his weapon. Go and capture him. After saying that, soon, someone pushed a young boy who was only wearing pants over. Who are you? Luda asked in the local language that wasn't very standard. The boy probably didn't expect to meet a few people with wooden guns. His expression didn't look good and he didn't say anything. Speak. Another team member next to him immediately pointed a dagger at his throat. Don't touch him. Luda said in a deep voice. Luda, that person wanted to say something but hesitated. Luda glanced at him indifferently. As long as he's here, our chances of winning will be higher. Hearing this, everyone immediately understood. They kept an eye on the boy along the way, not giving him any chance to escape. Soon, Luda was mentally prepared to be captured by these people again. Seeing these people chasing after him, he sneered. You guys are really amazing. I have to say, I admire you guys. Bei Yunj, who was behind him, just casually glanced around and didn't plan to go forward. Come back with us now. Chen, who pointed at him with the wooden gun. Hearing this, Luda suddenly laughed and grabbed the boy's neck with one hand. Is that so? Don't act rashly. I don't want to hurt the innocent. Where did this child come from? Someone subconsciously frowned and asked. At this moment, there was actually such an episode. How about this? I can apologize with my death, but you have to let my brother go. Allow them to take my body away. How about that? Luda's eyes were like an eagle's as he stared at them and asked. 2020 this is not a worthwhile transaction. Furthermore, there is no good transaction that would be carried out with threats. Chen Hu laughed. Everyone was thinking about how to save the boy. The safety of the innocent hostage was the most important. What does Miss Pei think? Chen Hu asked. Only then did Pei Yunj look up and meet Ruda's eyes. Soon. Lu De reacted. This was the person Meng Liang was talking about. His heart sank. Sure enough, Bei Yunj spoke up in the next moment. She chuckled. Isn't the corpse a little troublesome? What about the ashes? There's an idiom in our country that goes like this: burn the bones and scatter the ashes. Immediately, the faces of Lu De and the others changed. This was especially true for Lu De, who felt an inexplicable sense of panic. Did this person discover something, so he did it on purpose? The corpse had been burned to ashes, so how could the chip still be there? Arrogant. Don't you dare. Lu Da's team members said angrily. Yes. Let us go. Otherwise, this little boy won't be able to live. Lu Da thought for a moment and suddenly laughed. I don't want to involve innocent people. I wonder if that beautiful lady is willing to be a hostage. White Bear's face sank. Impossible. The others thought the same. Especially in the monitoring room, the people who were watching this scene were on tenterhooks. No matter what. With Bei Yunja's status, she could not become a hostage. Sergeant Gao could not help but give the order. Everyone, don't forget what the most important mission this time is. Protect Bei Yunj. This was their first mission. No. Chapter 691. But is it possible for all of you to leave safely? Lu De smiled and said, I believe that this beautiful lady was involved in the plan just now. Of course, I won't take revenge on you. I just want to use you in exchange for a chance to leave alive. Bei Yunj chuckled nonchalantly and walked between the two parties. All right, let the child go first. As soon as Bei Yunj finished speaking, White Bear shouted nervously, Miss Pei, you. Bei Yunj only glanced at him and walked slowly towards him. Just as their eyes lit up, they saw Bei Yunj playing with a familiar object in her hand. It was a grenade. This was a warning to them to let the child go. Lu Da's expression changed and he could only say one sentence through gritted teeth, let the child go. Now. He really believed that this person was the one who had been messing with his plan from the beginning to the end. In the beginning, these people didn't have any advantage. But later on, they were beaten to the point where they couldn't even fight back. Seeing the boy walk in front of her, he called out guiltily, Sis. Sis. He was afraid that this sister of his would lose her life in order to save him. Bei Yunj sized him up and patted his head before walking forward. She smiled casually and said, You can swim quite well. The boy looked down at his wet pants. He lived in a village 3,000 to 4,000 meters away. He swam nearly 2,000 meters near the river before reaching here. Not long after. After the hostage exchange was successful, someone pointed a wooden gun at the back of Bei Yunj's head from behind. The team member took Bei Yunj hostage and glanced at the others provocatively. However, Pei Yunj did not look nervous from the beginning to the end. No one noticed that Bei Yunj glanced at her wristwatch. Let's retreat. With Bei Yunj in their hands, the others didn't dare to use force. White Bear asked anxiously, What should we do? What should we do? Miss Pei is in their hands. In the monitoring room. Old Zhong, calm down. Gu was willing to be a hostage. Don't be anxious, Old Master Leng said quickly. Zhong Xinglin's face was ashen, and his heart was in a mess. These bastards, don't worry, Gu is very important to them. Nothing's going to happen. Old Master Leng quickly comforted him. Cui Hengchuan asked casually, Elder Leng, have the other teams been transferred over? They should be here soon. Old Master Leng took the opportunity to reassure Zhong Xinglin. I don't care. If these people dared to touch even a strand of my gu or his hair, they must be killed the moment they are caught. All right, I'll listen to you. Old Master Lang quickly agreed. On the way. You're not afraid? Ruda always felt that this girl was too calm. It's not the first time. Bei Yunj was calm and collected. Luda couldn't help but take another look at Bei Yunj, and a dark light flashed in his eyes. Miss, I know your ability. It would be a pity if you died. Bei Yunj glanced at him. You want me to betray you? There's indeed no burden to communicate with smart people. Lu Da's eyes lit up. With your ability, you're highly valued anywhere. Miss, you should know that if those people don't let me go in the end, I can only fight to the death. But I believe that you might be able to help us escape successfully. As long as we leave this place, I can bring you thousands of times more benefits. Chapter 692. Bei Yunja's eyebrows twitched as he glanced at Luda. He smiled and said, it should be easy to choose between life and death, right? It's a good choice. Bei Yunj suddenly stopped in his tracks. The team members following behind him quickly pointed the wooden gun at him. What are you doing? The team member asked fiercely. But at this moment. However, Lu Da's entire body froze. He felt something cold pressing against his back. Without a doubt. It was the wooden gun. Do you want to go back with me now, or do you want to try and see who will be the first to die? Luda listened to the girl's half-hearted voice and could not feel her fear at all. A person who did not know fear was simply a lunatic. Do you think I'm afraid of losing my life? Luda took a deep breath and sneered again. He was forcing himself not to be afraid of the wooden gun pointing at his heart. Luda, it's been an hour. Bei Yunja's lips curled up. If I die, you guys will only turn into ashes. As soon as he finished speaking. At first, Luda did not understand what Bei Yunj meant. But the next moment, he heard a sound above his head. When he looked up, he saw 7 or 8 helicopters hovering. Rescue teams surrounded them from both sides. Seeing this scene, Luda could not help but grit his teeth. In the end, he said unwillingly, Ricky, put it down. Ricky's face was livid. He scanned his surroundings and knew that this mission had failed. But he did not expect that the hour Bei Yunj was talking about was these. Not long after. The people from the blue and red teams saw the people coming down from the helicopters. They also saw their team emblem. Wait a minute, doesn't that team emblem look a little familiar? The people from the blue team whispered. Not long after, another team came down from the other side. Within a few minutes, everyone reacted. It's Falcon and Wolf. No way, Falcon and Subdue Wolf have both appeared? Everyone could not suppress their excitement. These two teams were the legends of the district. Who didn't want to join these two teams? Just as everyone was feeling reserved and did not dare to go to the two big shots of the two teams. The captains of Falcon and Wolf walked up to Bei Yunj. Miss Pei, are you alright? I heard from Elder Zhong that something happened to you, so I rushed over. The captain of Team Wolf, Tan Nan, looked gentle. His skin was fair and clean, which did not match his profession. However, his eyes were very dark, as if they could see through people's hearts. I'm fine. Bei Yunj handed the things in her hands to White Bear. At this moment, the captain of the Falcon squad couldn't help but ask, Miss Pei, how old are you? You've been running around all day and even come to a place like this? The captain of the Falcons, Lu Zhongzhou, was the younger brother of Captain Lu, who had helped Bei Yunj collect evidence against Fu Yanbai. He had a good relationship with Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj. I didn't want to come. Then what are you doing here? Experience life? Lu Zhongzhou put on a fake smile. If Bei Yunj got hurt today, his brother would not forgive him. Not far away. When everyone saw that the famous captains of the two districts actually knew Bei Yunj, they could not help but be shocked. What kind of social circle was Miss Pei in? Everyone she knew was a big shot. At this moment, Xiang Hongtao was standing not far away, his expression a little ugly. He looked at the two idols he had set as his goal, and they did not hide their concern and sympathy for Bei Yunj. He clenched his fists. Chapter 693. After Tan Nan got someone to take these foreign people away, the two of them asked Bei Yunj about the specific incident along the way. The main reason was that they were afraid that there might be a hidden reason for bringing Meng Liang out of prison this time. It was because of Bei Yunj. To the people above, Bei Yunj was much more important than Meng Liang. The two of them were not on the same level at all. After that, everyone was envious when they saw Bei Yunj being brought to Falcon and Wolf's helicopter. What kind of identity does Miss Pei have? Why do even God Tan and God Lu seem to have a good relationship with Miss Pei? Someone could not help but ask Chen Hu. They don't just seem to have a good relationship. Look at God Tan. I've seen him on a mission once before. He's so cold. When he spoke to Miss Pei just now, wasn't his tone too doting? As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Shui, who was beside him, could not help but look at his companion. Old Gu, are you interested in God Tan? F***CKU. Heroes should appreciate each other, don't you know that? I'm still envious of White Bear. When he was on a mission just now, no one wanted to protect Miss Pei. Now, Miss Pei brought him to God Tan and God Lu. When everyone said this, they believed a truth. Fools have fools' luck. In the end, White Bear, that silly boy, benefited. On the helicopter. So, Elder Zhong threw you here? Lu Zhongzhou was shocked. When he and Tan Nan were on shift at the Computing Institute, they had also seen how Zhong Xinglin doted on Bei Yunj. Even Professor C from the computing department of Yun University next door would take the blame every time he fought with Bei Yunj. However, they did not expect that the person who sent Bei Yunj to the district would be Elder Zhong. Bei Yunj bit the biscuit that Tan Nan had just handed her. Her slow-eating manner was especially pleasing to the eye. The men from Falcon and Wolf could not help but look at Bei Yunj lovingly. Miss Pei was really too beautiful. 22nd Literature Network. Even the way she ate the biscuits was adorable. This also led to the need to fight for a spot to protect Miss Pei every time they came to the Computing Institute. White Bear felt the loving gazes directed at Bei Yunj. Was Miss Pei the team favorite of Falcon and Wolf? Why did it seem like all these almighties liked Miss Pei? Miss Pei, why don't you come to our camp? Our security is stronger, and we can protect you better. At this moment, Lu Zhongzhou still did not know what Bei Yunj had done just now. No need. Elder Zhong will let me go back in a few days. There was an inexplicable sense of confidence in Bei Yunj's tone. All right. Lu Zhongzhou nodded. Subsequently, when they returned to the district, everyone's eyes widened when they saw Bei Yunj and White Bear alight from Team Wolf's helicopter. Why would Team Wolf and Team Falcon appear here? These two teams usually don't go out on missions at the same time. Not far away, Old Master Leng also had mixed feelings. As one of the higher-ups in the district, he could not get these two brats to move. It was not as useful as Elder Zhong's special situation at the Computing Institute. Why is Old Master Leng here? Tan Nan and Lu Zhongzhou greeted Old Master Leng. Chapter 694. I'm fine. Bei Yunj said. Turn around. Zhong Xinglin gestured for Bei Yunj to turn around and let him see if she was injured. Bei Yunj turned around obediently. Even Bei Yunj's sleeves were a little torn. Zhong Xinglin heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that you're fine. Zhong Xinglin changed the topic and pulled Bei Yunj back. He was so angry that his expression changed. Leng, look at what my Gu has suffered. These words made Old Master Leng's heart skip a beat. But in the next moment, Zhong Xinglin said angrily, her sleeves are torn. What if she hurts her hands? Do you know how important these hands are? Old Master Leng was speechless. Very good. This old man had gone crazy. At this moment, When the others saw Elder Zhong in front of them, they were even more in disbelief. Miss Pei and Old Master Zhong knew each other too. What kind of identity did she have to know so many immortals? Elder Zhong, when can I go back? Bei Yunj thought that after today's incident, it was time for her to end her days in the district. She came and left on the same day. This was indeed the best plan. Just as Zhong Xinglin was feeling vexed and sorry for Bei Yunj and was about to agree to Bei Yunj's request, a low voice sounded. Miss Pei, it's my honor to meet you for the first time today. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows and turned around. She glanced at a handsome and gentle man in a white coat. You are? My name is Cui Hengchuan. I'm a doctor. The man curled his thin lips. Although Cui Hengchuan did not point it out, Bei Yunj roughly knew what was going on. Bei Yunj turned around. Elder Zhong, when can we, Miss Pei, do you have time to treat you to a meal today? Cui Hengchuan's voice sounded, interrupting her. Bei Yunj's eyes twitched, and she said slowly, I don't like to eat with people I'm not familiar with. These words were very straightforward, but Cui Hengchuan was not embarrassed. Just now, he did it because Bei Yunj would at least give him some face in public. Unexpectedly, Bei Yunj was even more unpredictable than he had imagined. Oh, Dr. Cui just wants to chat with you. Zhong Xinglin was concerned about Bei Yunj's illness and hoped that Cui Hengchuan could treat Bei Yunj. Thus, they played matchmaker to their heart's content. However, what was unexpected was that the two captains beside her felt that a dangerous person was approaching Bei Yunj. Miss Pei is just like that. She's more straightforward with people she's not close to. Lu Zhongzhou chuckled and said, how about this, God Tan and I will eat with you. Tan Nan nodded. White Bear quickly added, I want to go too. Bei Yunj, in the office. Dai Dan, I've already applied for a transfer for you. You're more suitable for a civilian job. Old Master Leng said. Hearing this, Dai Dan clenched her fists instinctively and bit her lip. After a while. Why? Is it because I didn't perform well enough, or did someone say something about me? With that said, Bei Yunj and Chen who appeared in Dai Dan's mind. No one said anything about you. I watched the entire mission. Old Master Leng said calmly, after Yunj gave you the topographic map, did you really successfully locate the enemy again? These words made Dai Dan's face pale. Dai Dan, I don't want anyone to joke about their companions' lives at the front line. Chapter 695. Old Master Leng, the transfer procedures can be completed today, Old Master Leng said calmly. Dai Dan pursed her lips. At the very least, Old Master Leng had given her some dignity. Otherwise, if she was transferred for disregarding her companions' lives and destroying the mission, she would be finished in the future. How did Miss Pei get her hands on that map? Dai Dan could not help but ask before she left. When Old Master Leng heard this, he roughly understood why Dai Dan was acting abnormally. As a top student from Yun University's Computer Science Department, Dai Dan was also known as a top student. She was one of the best in the computer science field. However, when Bei Yunj came, Dai Dan's pride was thwarted. However, some people's abilities were God's favorite gift. There was no way to compare them. Dai Dan, don't compare yourself to some people. Some people are born in the clouds, Old Master Leng said in a deep voice. However, people in the clouds might have to bear some so-called price. In the restaurant, Lu Zhongzhou said, Miss Pei, don't you think I'm quite loyal? If you don't want to eat with that weak doctor, I'll help you. Then do you think I'll want to eat with you? Bei Yunj smiled faintly. Lu Zhongzhou was speechless. Why didn't young ladies these days know how to appreciate kindness? Then I won't say anything. Lu Zhongzhou felt wronged, but his expression was very cold. He was obviously unhappy. But who would have thought, hearing this, Bei Yunj only nodded and found a seat to sit down. This smooth action made Lu Zhongzhou's body freeze. Pretentious. Tan Nan glanced at him and walked over. You're the pretentious one. You're a quiet freak, Lu Zhongzhou retorted fiercely. At this moment, many people were looking over. 80-90-inch Miss Pei's things. Cui Hengchuan handed a small stack of bound paper to Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj flipped through a page and already knew what it was. Her medical records. However, it was not complete. I hope Miss Pei can look for me tomorrow afternoon. Cui Hengchuan only said this one sentence before he continued to eat quietly. Bai Yunj didn't find it noisy at all. On the contrary, the atmosphere was unusually harmonious. Only Lu Zhongzhou had been eyeing Cui Hengchuan covetously. He felt that Cui Hengchuan was not a good person. At night, Bai Yunj returned to her room and casually threw her things on the table. She saw a corner of the business card. She picked it up and glanced at it. Cui Hengchuan was the director of a psychological research institute. He should be quite famous. Otherwise, Zhong Xinglin would not have let her come all the way to this place. Bai Yunj put it on the table again and didn't pay much attention to it. The next day, she didn't look for Cui Hengchuan. She just strolled around the district with nothing to do. Because he knew Bai Yunj's identity, Captain Gao did not make any more demands on Bai Yunj. Instead, he turned a blind eye to it. As long as Bai Yunj did not cause any trouble, it would be fine. After all, it wasn't that he didn't see Zhong Xinglin aggressively settling scores with old Master Leng because Bai Yunj's sleeve was torn yesterday. Elder Zhong even dared to argue with old Master Leng, let alone him. Besides, if anything really happened to Bai Yunj in his hands, it would really be over, but if this continued, a few days later, the district was not peaceful again. The young man from the cooking squad came over aggressively and complained to Captain Gao. Chapter 696. The reason was that Pei Qian would encourage the military dogs in the district to steal food from the kitchen. There was also one time when the young man in the kitchen discovered that his favorite big golden retriever was chewing on a plastic bundle of noodles. The noodles kept dropping, but the culprit was wagging its tail as it walked towards the door. Only then did they discover the culprit. Moreover, the most difficult thing was that when they found the culprit and were about to correct him, this person was more proactive than anyone else in admitting his mistake. With a pair of beautiful and clear eyes, it was hard for people to say anything harsh. But the next day, they saw two big golden retrievers shuttling back and forth in the kitchen. One was biting on a rope with eggs, and the other was biting on a bottle of milk. Their black eyes swept across them cutely as they trotted out. Their crime methods were despicable and very daring. Captain Gao, where did you find this ancestor? The young man was miserable. This was the first time he had encountered such a thing in so many years. Captain Gao's eyelids twitched. One had to know that this person would not do anything good. Captain Gao was slightly helpless. This person was sent here by old Master Leng. What? The young man felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Then won't my noodles, eggs, and milk be stolen every day from now on? Captain Gao couldn't bear it. He turned his head, coughed lightly, and ordered, "Tell the people below to keep an eye on the military dogs. Don't let Miss Pei come into contact with them." The people present suppressed their laughter for some reason. This was the first time such a young lady had come to the district. However, compared to the rich young masters who came, she was even more of a headache. But Big Gold and Little Gold both like Miss Pei very much, the team member muttered softly. At this moment, the young man smiled slightly. Big Gold and Little Gold are fed meat by Miss Pei every day. How can they not like her? Everyone, Captain Gao, I believe in your ability. Let Miss Pei go back as soon as possible. This is not suitable for her. The young man said seriously. Captain Gao, if possible, he also wanted to send Miss Pei back as soon as possible. However, he didn't know what old Master Leng and old Master Zhong were thinking. They felt that putting Bai Yunj in this place was beneficial to Bai Yunj. But in reality, leaving Miss Pei here would only be disadvantageous to them. Moreover, every few days, Falcon Captain Lu Shen and Wolf Captain Tan Shen would come to see Miss Pei. She was indirectly warning him that he had to take good care of Miss Pei. Who would dare to cause trouble for her? A few days later, Bei Yunj had just come out of Cui Hengchuan's office as usual, and her beautiful eyes were slightly bloodshot. Miss Pei, are you all right? White Bear asked cautiously. She felt that every time Bei Yunj came out of Cui Hengchuan's office, she was not in a good state. Her eyes were colder than usual. No one dared to look him in the eye. Bei Yunj glanced at the White Bear. Most of the coldness in his eyes dissipated, but the blood vessels in his eyes did not recede so quickly. Yes. I remember that Dr. Cui is very knowledgeable in psychology. Miss Pei, you are. Before he could finish his sentence, White Bear roughly understood what kind of illness Bei Yunj had. White Bear changed the topic. Can it be cured? Maybe. Although Bei Yunj said this, her expression was very calm. She was already very satisfied with her current state. No matter how bad it would not be worse than before. White Bear remembered and quickly handed the strawberry-flavored milk he had hidden in his pocket to Bei Yunj. After Bei Yunj took it, she shook the pink milk in her hand and raised her eyebrows at him. Chapter 697. Miss Pei, I asked a friend of mine to secretly bring this back for you. White Bear scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. Big Brother Bear, are you sure this isn't your daily stock? Bei Yunj smiled lazily as she asked. White Bear was speechless. Could he go back on his word? Bei Yunj thanked White Bear, opened the straw, poked a hole, and slowly bit on it. Is the set of speed training exercises that I taught you before suitable? Very suitable. I got 9th place in the assessment. White Bear's eyes lit up. Miss Pei's set of exercises was amazing. Previously, their team was often at the bottom of the assessment because they did not pass the test in speed. But according to Miss Pei's training speed, they achieved great results in a short period of time. Miss Pei, did you create this? White Bear could not help but ask. No. Bei Yunj paused for a moment and smiled. It's an old friend. A few days later, Sergeant Gao and the young man from the cooking team looked expressionlessly at the simple scooter that White Bear and Bei Yunj had created. Soon, they saw Big Gold and Little Gold happily dragging the scooter and running around the district. At first, the young man and Sergeant Gao did not quite understand what the scooter was for. In the afternoon, Big Gold and Little Gold stuck out their tongues and sat obediently in front of them. The young man looked into the scooter tentatively. It was a small piece of paper. Can you give me some fruit and milk? Thank you. Sergeant Gao and the young man were speechless. Good heavens. Was she already asking for it? After filling the scooter, the young man unconsciously lit a cigarette and looked at Big Gold and Little Gold's departing figures with a weary expression. Sergeant Gao glanced at the young man. Just as the young man was stunned and realized that he could not smoke, Sergeant Gao said, "Give me one." The young man was speechless. He remembered that Sergeant Gao had not smoked for several years. However, another afternoon. On the training ground, Bei Yunj was bored to death. After bathing Big Gold and Little Gold, she was combing their beautiful golden fur. When some of the team members passed by, they couldn't help but glance at Bei Yunj. Although the cook and Sergeant Gao were not very happy, they still liked this kind of unbelievably beautiful girl. It was simply the most refreshing scenery in the entire district. He just didn't know when it would happen. The discussion around them seemed to have quieted down. When Bei Yunj stood up and turned her head around, she was surprised to see a man's shiny black leather shoes and perfectly ironed trousers. Looking up again, she saw his handsome and noble features. His pair of pale-colored eyes were abstinent, revealing an inexplicable sense of aggression. The corners of his upturned eyes were seductive, and his posture was lazy and carefree. No matter where he stood, he was an existence that no one could take their eyes off. He was refined and arrogant. Bei Yunj, on the other hand, glanced at the mole on the man's sexy Adam's apple. This man's appearance was like a human's. Bei Yunj was the first to react. She was still thinking about the man's appearance. The others couldn't help but discuss. How did this gentleman get in? Someone not far away asked in confusion. It was not easy for outsiders to enter this place. Old Master Lang was also puzzled. Back then, the news of Bei Yunj entering the district was planned to be kept a secret. No one outside knew where Bei Yunj went. Then, how did this young man find her? Chapter 698. The man's gaze was indifferent as he casually glanced at Bei Yunj's wet clothes. Sir, the person you're looking for is Miss Pei? The female team member, who was originally in high spirits, suddenly froze on her face. Yes. After the man replied indifferently, his low and magnetic voice sounded. Yun Yun. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Yun Yun. Wasn't he calling her too intimately? Moreover, the man's voice had a special magnetism to it. It was inexplicably flirtatious and seductive. Bei Yunj walked in front of Hushidu and looked at the water stains on her body. Her gaze inexplicably drifted as she called out, "Brother." Everyone. Was this still the unruly Miss Pei they knew who liked to torture people? Wasn't she too obedient? Hushidu stretched out his hand lazily and naturally brushed Bei Yunj's hair away from her ear. Is it fun? Bei Yunj felt that this question was not ordinary. She said sincerely, I want to go back. Everyone was stunned. This was the first time they realized that Miss Pei was so obedient. It was also the first time they realized that someone was actually standing together with Miss Pei. For some reason, the atmosphere was inexplicably harmonious and sweet. After Hushidu found out that Bei Yunj had left, he used his connections and found Bei Yunj's exact location. He had originally thought that this young lady would suffer a little here. However, he did not expect to see this young lady happily playing with the two golden-furred animals as soon as he saw her. All right, good girl, go pack your things first. We're going home. Hushidu habitually scratched Bei Yunj's chin and smiled calmly. Bei Yunj responded and immediately returned to the dormitory. Everyone was still thinking about how the man had scratched Miss Pei's chin just now. Wasn't this scene too doting and sweet? Similarly, Cui Hengchuan, who was standing beside Zhong Xinglin, also saw this scene clearly. As a psychiatrist, he could clearly feel that Bei Yunj's attitude towards this man was very different. It could be said that she relied on him. At this moment, Cui Hengchuan's gaze darkened, but Hushidu walked towards Zhong Xinglin. His deep voice was gentle and pleasant. It was neither friendly nor cold. Elder Zhong, it's an honor to meet you for the first time. My surname is Hua. The man handed the gold-stamped business card to Zhong Xinglin and said in a light tone, the little girl is noisy and not suitable for this place. It's better for me to bring her back and discipline her. Zhong Xinglin was stunned when he saw the name on the business card. Hushidu. The youngest president of the Hua Corporation? Suddenly, Zhong Xinglin remembered that Si Qingyan had complained that Bei Yunj treated the Hua Corporation too differently. So that's how it is, Gu, lives with you? You're her, brother? Zhong Xinglin's mind was a mess. He didn't know how Gu had anything to do with the Hua Corporation. He was also the most rumored young president of the Hua Corporation. However, Zhong Xinglin knew very well that Bei Yunj only had 3 brothers. How could there be a 4th brother? When the man heard this, he only smiled and answered the first question. She lives with me. However, this answer was inexplicably ambiguous. Cui Hengchuan's eyes darkened. He never thought that Bei Yunj would actually know the young president of the Hua Corporation. Cui Hengchuan subconsciously clenched his fists. Chapter 699. So that's how it is, Zhong Xinglin nodded instinctively. He sized up the dignified man in front of him a few times. Zhong Xinglin felt very satisfied. Such a man was impeccable. Whether it was his appearance, ability, or family background, no one could find fault with him. Not long after, Bai Yunj had just finished preparing her things when she saw a girl from the district talking to Huashidu. She narrowed her beautiful eyes, feeling an inexplicable eyesore. White Bear, who was beside her, was originally very reluctant to part with Bai Yunj, but when he saw Bai Yunj's unhappy expression, his heart skipped a beat. Previously, when he saw Bai Yunj with such an expression, someone must be in trouble. But today, it seemed different. White Bear glanced at Bai Yunj and followed Bai Yunj's gaze. He did not expect to see Huashidu. The simple-minded White Bear felt that something was amiss. Wasn't that Miss Pei's brother? Why did Miss Pei look unhappy as if her boyfriend was chatting with another girl? After thinking for a moment, White Bear probed, "Miss Pei, is this your brother?" "Why?" Bai Yunj did not even turn her head as she continued to look at the person not far away. Fortunately, Huashidu seemed to have only heard what the girl said just now. He quickly turned his head and had no intention of chatting. "I keep feeling that Miss Pei doesn't seem too happy when your brother is chatting with another girl," White Bear said straightforwardly. Bai Yunj was silent for a moment before she laughed lazily. "Yes, because I have a brother complex." White Bear. Miss Pei had a brother complex with her personality? White Bear felt that his perception was damaged, but not long after, he subconsciously asked, "What if your brother gets married?" Bai Yunj paused. Not long after, she turned to look at White Bear. "You seem to like to mention things that I won't be happy about today. Miss Pei, wake up. Brother complex has no future." But not long after, White Bear followed Bai Yunj. Along the way, he was worried that Bai Yunj might be smart, but she would eventually go down the wrong path. At this time, Huashidu took Bai Yunj's luggage and asked unhurriedly, "Do you have anything to say to me?" Bai Yunj changed her clothes and put on a white baseball cap. Hearing this, he lowered the brim of his hat and glanced at the people around him. "I'm leaving. Goodbye." Everyone, very well, there was no need for such a fervent farewell. Only White Bear was the most sincere. He took out all his snacks in front of the captain and let Bai Yunj eat them on the way. Bai Yunj was silent for a moment before she took it. She did not tell White Bear that the trunk was filled with her snacks. I still have something to tell you." Old Master Leng suddenly called out to Bai Yunj and called Bai Yunj to the side. After giving his instructions, Bai Yunj returned to Huashidu's side. When she saw the girl beside her looking at Huashidu reluctantly, she looked away. On the way, the man sensed the girl's faint gaze and subconsciously curled his lips. "Yin, control yourself when you're outside." Bai Yunj glanced at the man's side profile and chuckled. Brother is so popular. Even Bai Yunj herself did not understand why she was looking for trouble again. After thinking for a while, Bai Yunj cleared her throat and was about to apologize. Suddenly, she heard the man's deep and pleasant voice ring in her ear. "Popular?" Chapter 700. Bai Yunj glanced at him. Just as she was about to organize her words and say something, the man's gaze landed on her. The man's unwavering gaze fell on her body. Suddenly, his thin red lips casually curled up and he bent down. For a moment, the surroundings were filled with his cold and pleasant scent. Before Bai Yunj could come back to her senses, her hand was covered with a layer of warmth. It was the man's warm and dry palm that gently held her hand. It was different from the deliberate intimacy in the past. It seemed to carry some kind of indescribable hidden emotion. It was sudden and unusually passionate. Just like the man's deep and magnetic voice at this moment, it sounded in her ear, causing Bai Yunj's heart to pound and her ears to gradually heat up. "Why are you blushing, Yun?" Bai Yunj, the corners of his lips curled up as he looked at the angry little girl. Huashidu's slender and well-defined fingers wrapped around her hand. His voice was light and his posture was inexplicably ostentatious. His eyes gradually darkened, but they were explicit and ambiguous. Why would my union need to snatch what she wants? Bei Yunj was almost scalded by the man's gaze and immediately looked away. She struggled a little. But seeing that the man was holding her hand tightly, she did not feel awkward anymore. Huashidu looked at the little girl with her head lowered. He did not know what she was thinking about. He wondered when this child had been unhappy just now. Not long after, Bei Yunj heard the man's low and indifferent voice and said slowly, "Miss Huang just now was asked for help by a friend." He added, "She helped me bring her home." Bei Yunj looked at him. "I'm not angry." The man curled his lips and said lazily, "Is that so? Then I was happy for nothing." "What are you happy about?" Bei Yunj looked at him subconsciously. At this moment, the man had already opened the car door and touched Bei Yunj's head, careful that Bei Yunj would knock on the door. "Happy brother, do you have a chance to coax our union?" With that said, the man closed the door and returned to the driver's seat. Bei Yunj, why was it that every time this man spoke, it felt like he was playing with a cat? Not long after, Bei Yunj glanced at the man beside her before she stared at the scenery outside and said casually, "Brother, have you ever thought about dating?" Huashidu almost stopped when he heard that, but then he heard her say boldly, "The kind that doesn't get married." The man seemed to be silent for a long time. Even the light in his eyes was hidden. He glanced at her indifferently. He said unhurriedly, "I don't plan to." Bei Yunj, sure. They couldn't continue the conversation. Bei Yunj sensed that the atmosphere was inexplicably strange, so she tactfully quieted down. But then, she heard the man chuckle softly. He said slowly, "We're older men, so we're more conservative. I like to fall in love with the goal of marriage." Bei Yunj nodded and commented, "It's pretty good. It seems like Yunyun is planning to be a hooligan when she falls in love in the future." Huashidu raised his eyelids and looked at her. Bei Yunj, in her previous life, because Pei Junhan had an affair, when he married Meng Liang, he even had a pair of children with another woman. Hence, Bei Yunj saw with her own eyes how Meng Liang was destroyed because of the man she loved the most. Therefore, the impulse that surged up in Bei Yunj towards this man in front of her was something that she had never felt before. Chapter 701. Pei Junhan had given Meng Liang an unforgettable love. Even before Pei Junhan's matter was exposed, Meng Liang's students would always mention this handsome, elegant, and affectionate man in front of Bei Yunj. However, his affectionate relationship was fake. Otherwise, he wouldn't have openly appeared in front of Meng Liang and Bei Yunj on her 14th birthday with his children. Later, Bei Yunj found out that her father wasn't very busy. The reason why he wanted her to be sensible and follow the nanny since she was young was because he liked the children that the woman outside gave birth to for him more. Pei Junhan would be like an ordinary father. He would send the children to school, take them to the amusement park, and praise them because of some unworthy honor. As for her, no matter how much honor she received, she couldn't compare to Pei Junhan's illegitimate children. Because of this matter, Meng Liang had once gone crazy. She had brought Bei Yunj to the higher-ups of the Pei family and mocked and humiliated Pei Junhan's children. They were as stupid as pigs. But in the end, Pei Junhan lost his mind and threw the cup on the table at Meng Liang. But no one expected Bei Yunj to stand in front of Meng Liang. Seeing the blood on Pei Yunj's forehead, Pei Junhan finally panicked. He wanted to coax his daughter not to tell others that he had attacked Meng Liang and her for the sake of his illegitimate children. But when Grandpa Pei barged in and hugged Bei Yunj with heartache, he heard the 14-year-old Bei Yunj say calmly, "Grandpa, in terms of ability, Pei Junhan and his children are just defective products. Only I can afford the Pei family." This was a 14-year-old girl talking about her father and her half-brothers and sisters. Grandpa Pei's heart ached. He brought Bei Yunj back and chased Pei Junhan out of the Pei family. He also acquiesced to Bei Yunj's wishes. Bei Yunj knew very well how much Meng Liang had sacrificed for that ridiculous marriage. This was a lesson learned from her predecessor's mistakes. Bei Yunj had always felt that feelings were the best thing to avoid. She couldn't possibly make the same mistake as her mother. But now, she seemed to be facing the same choice as Meng Liang. If they continued forward, they would either be like moths to a flame, or they would get what they wished for. Bei Yunj subconsciously glanced at the man's side profile. But she wanted to get what she wanted. The next day, Bei Yunj asked Song Yao out to play. After filming her scene, Song Yao turned around and saw Bei Yunj waiting outside the venue. She smiled. When she was done, her agent pulled her aside and asked, "Little Song, do you know that girl? She's really good looking. She looks like a superstar." The agent couldn't help but exclaim. With the development of society, it was easy for beautiful faces to be the same. However, Bei Yunj's appearance was undoubtedly the most stunning. Her bone structure was perfect and she was very recognizable. His looks were off the charts. With a bit of polishing, he would be a movie star. Even if he didn't have time, he could rely on his face to become a top-notch celebrity. "Sister, her family can buy 10 companies like ours in one go." Song Yao smiled gently. "You want to take her in as an artiste?" The manager was speechless. She didn't deserve to be disturbed. He couldn't afford to hire such an ancestor. Soon, Song Yao saw that Bei Yunj's expression was not too good as she was reading her comments. Because Song Yao looked like a little white flower, she was very popular with boys, but there were many haters. She had just debuted and there were already many haters. They felt that Song Yao must be a scheming girl. P.S. I'll make up for it tomorrow morning. Chapter 702. Song Yao smiled and pretended not to know. "What are you looking at?" Bei Yunj took back his phone and glanced at Song Yao. "Nothing. I'm picking you up for a meal." At this moment, everyone present could not help but glance at Song Yao and Bei Yunj, their gazes curious and strange. They had been wondering why this new actress looked like a little white flower and was so indifferent to everyone. Today, she only saw Song Yao smiling when she was with this girl who came to fetch her. There were even 2 sweet dimples on her cheeks. At other times, no matter how gentle and beautiful Song Yao's eyes were, there was a faint indifference in them. At first, everyone suspected that Song Yao had a sugar daddy. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had such an opportunity to be the 3rd and 4th female lead in a big production. Although she was not the main lead, her exposure was shocking. However, just as everyone was guessing if Song Yao's sugar daddy would come to pick her up today, an even prettier girl came. Her posture was lazy, but her eyes were only on Song Yao from the beginning to the end. It was unbelievable. It was difficult for the friendship between female celebrities in the industry to reach this level. After Song Yao and Bei Yunj left, someone asked in a daze. "This can't be Song Yao's sugar daddy, right?" The assistant director beside him could not take it anymore. "Are you crazy? He looked like this and was a sugar daddy? What was with the lesbian romance? But the watch on that girl's wrist is worth tens of millions." Hearing this, everyone noticed that the girl who seemed to be dressed in a low-key manner had a branded watch from our nation. And this brand usually only served a few rich people and the royal family in our nation. That watch seems to be a joint design of VMO and our nation's top fashion company, right? I remember that the circulation is only 5 yuan, but why haven't I seen her version before? Hearing everyone's discussion, the manager immediately sent a message to Song Yao. 3-2, Xiao Song. Is Song here? Is the elder young lady beside you so capable? I heard that the watch she has is worth tens of millions. It's a joint design of VMO and our nation's top fashion company. Really? Really? The manager was extremely excited, but Song Yao glanced at it and put it back in her pocket. She pulled Bei Yunj to buy 2 cups of milk tea. When they came out, Bei Yunj smiled and said, Tian, your phone has been vibrating for a long time." Song Yao was already used to Bei Yunj calling her that. Since Bei Yunj had said so, she could only take it out and look at it again. Song, ignore me, ignore me. As long as your friend is willing to create hype with you, I guarantee that she'll become an A-lister. Could it be a fake watch? Song Yao's eyelids moved and she replied. It's not fake. She wouldn't create hype. However, the manager seemed to not understand human language and said something that Song Yao could not understand. Why is she so nice to you? It can't be for no reason. Could it be that he has other intentions towards you? That's true. Women might not be able to resist your innocent looks. Song, listen to me. As a person, you have to seize the opportunity. You have to choose to accept what you have to accept. Of course, that elder young lady is really good looking. You're not the one who's at a disadvantage. Song Yao was speechless. Was he crazy? This was the first time Song Yao could not help but curse in her heart. It was not rare for same-sex celebrities to fall in love in the industry. Chapter 703. However, in the next second, the manager changed the topic. Is that watch real? I think those 5 watches don't look like the one elder miss is wearing. Song Yao was speechless. The fashion company the manager was talking about was Jasmine's father's company. Song Yao knew Bei Yunj well. Bei Yunj would never use Jasmine's imitation. Bei Yunj inadvertently glanced at her chat and leaned over to say. My watch? Jasmine's father gave it to me. She did not know much about watches. She just thought that it looked quite pleasing to the eye, so she wore it. Song Yao was speechless. That person in power actually gave it to her personally? Yunj, do you know Jasmine's family too? Bei Yunj replied, I know his grandfather too. Last time, Tich and Jasmine's parents, including their grandfather, had video called her alone. However, she was working on a project and hung up after chatting for about 10 minutes. She could understand why a student's parents would want to talk to her about something like this. After all, it concerned Jasmine and Tich's future. However, hearing this, Song Yao felt that something was strange. Did she meet his parents? Yunj, you and Jasmine are. Song Yao hesitated. Don't think too much. Bei Yunja's eyelid twitched and she stopped biting the octopus ball. I used to work on projects with Jasmine and Tich, so I know them. With that said, Song Yao's hands trembled unconsciously. But it was not unexpected. After all, her Yunj could even do something like recommending someone. It didn't seem strange that she knew Jasmine and Tich's parents and grandfather. 12-inch. Oh right, this watch is for you. Bei Yunj remembered and took out a box from her pocket. It's from Jasmine's family. I sent an extra one. Jasmine talked to Bei Yunj for a long time before Bei Yunj agreed to not tell Song Yao that he was the one who sent this watch. After all, it was impossible for Jasmine to give something to a girl to be cheap. However, Song Yao would definitely not accept anything too expensive. Bei Yunja's watch and Song Yao's watch were not in the number of releases. The only difference was that the one Bei Yunj was wearing was handmade by a famous designer from the VMO industry. As for Song Yao's design, Jasmine had stayed up all night for a month to learn how to design from that designer. The professional part was still handed to the VMO team. Song Yao's thin eyelids moved. Is this extra? Bei Yunj turned around and saw the carvings on the watch. Bei Yunj, she thought that Jasmine was just not clear-headed occasionally and had written half of the report about Song Yao. She did not expect that the moment he encountered Song Yao, the thing on his neck became a decoration. Bei Yunj suddenly thought of another problem. She lowered her head, turned on her watch, and looked inside. Bei Yunj, at this moment, Song Yao was a little strange. Yunj, why are there 2 more dots on your letter? Fortunately, Song Yao did not think too much. Maybe it wasn't designed by one person. Bei Yunj was very calm. Song Yao furrowed her eyebrows. Then what's with this watch? Did you give it to me or did Jasmine give it to me? Bei Yunj took a deep breath. Me. Song Yao nodded and was relieved. She held Bei Yunj's hand and said, "Buy me a fake watch next time. It's too expensive." You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.